Shall we proceed? Good morning. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order that limits attendance at public gatherings. My name is Bruce Mullock. Panel members this morning are Peter Reid, Lisa Valentini, Sahir Bayat, and Aaron Cheng. This will be a virtual public hearing. Participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx as moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by computer, phone, or tablet app. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When his or her item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Registered participants will be participating by audio only. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is also now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for the following: variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property in order to create new lots. Anyone in the audience today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on a particular application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name and address and an email address, because Committee of Adjustment and the TLAB will be sending notifications and updates by email only. You may not agree with the decision of the committee. Decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or, in some limited circumstances, to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. Procedure: I will call each item in the order that it is listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if so requested by the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the agent or applicant, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment to you when you are reaching your 5-minute mark. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address, and please remember to confine your remarks to the matters that are outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and may be asked to make a presentation to the committee of the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised in order to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice are informed of the changes. Then, individuals, either in support of or opposed to an application, will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after the speaker has finished their presentation. When all the speakers are finished, the applicant or agent will have an opportunity to rebut, but only those issues which were raised by the speakers. And that will mark the end of discussion on that application. It'll then be taken into committee for a decision. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have the minutes been confirmed by members for the previous meeting?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and panel members. Yes, there are 2 sets of minutes from the December 1st hearing from both Panel A and Panel B.
Very good. All right then, I will need a motion from panel, please, to confirm the minutes of both Panel A and Panel B. That motion from Ms. Valentine.
Motion to confirm.
Thank you. Seconded by Mr. Bayat. So moved and seconded to approve the minutes by both panels A and B. Those in favor, show of hands, please. Motion is carried, and those minutes are so approved. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any declarations? Are there any declarations of interest by either staff or panel members on this morning's agenda? No. Seeing none. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have you received any requests for deferral?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes. Item number 1, the applicant will be requesting deferral. And to note for item number 19, the applicant is requesting deferral. However, this item will have to be held until 2 p.m. or shortly thereafter, because our notices indicated that this item would be held
Very
at 2
good.
p.m. or shortly after.
So we'll hold 19 till after 2 p.m. But number 1 has requested deferral.
That is correct.
Okay. Mr. Moderator, do we have the applicant online or on the phone? Okay.
Yes.
Very good. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? Good morning, Mr. Chair, members. Ida Evangelista.
Good morning, Ida. Could you explain to us, please, why the referral request is being made?
Mr. Chair, it has just come to our attention. We have a problem with the rear yard parking. There's just, in light of just coming to my attention that there is a restrictive covenant across the rear of the property. We're indicating 2 parking spots which can be accessed through, there is a right of way between the homes. However, transportation at this time has not confirmed whether or not they are in agreement for the access to Mutual Drive.
Very good. Okay, so we'd like to hear from transportation in order to have clarity on the matter.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Right. Okay. All right then, panel. Motion here, or a request here to defer. I'll look to panel for a motion on that referral.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I believe we have, do we have someone on the line that wants to speak?
Oh, we do. Very good. Go ahead, moderator.
Bridget Shim, you've been unmuted.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello. Can you hear me?
We do hear you, Bridget. Stage.
Yes, thank you so much. I'll be really brief. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm an adjacent neighbor, and I guess for us right now, we feel that the site plan shown for this project is misleading and that the restrictive covenant needs to be included on the site plan. And we also appreciate that transportation needs to be consulted to ensure that the access to the rear yard parking, which will have to come from the street,
Bridget.
is appropriate.
Okay then, Bridget, let me ask you a question then. You've registered and you're ready to speak. Would you be in favor then of a deferral of the application in order to allow those things to take place?
I would be in favor, and I would like to make sure that the site plan is actually accurate and correct, and that the
Okay,
restrictive covenant is included on the site plan.
Okay,
Thank you.
Bridget, thanks for that. Okay, I'm going to go now to,
Sorry, Bridget, please state your address.
Yes, my name is Bridget Shim, and I live at 7 Leslie Garden Lane, which is adjacent to the property 17 Curzon Street.
Thank you.
okay, then we'll go to the panel then. Panel, there is one speaker who is in agreement with the deferral request, and you know the reasoning for it. So, again, I'll ask for a motion on this deferral request from Mr. Byatt. Mr. Byatt, what is your motion?
Mr. Chair, sorry, I'm getting in it. Mr. Chair, I move that the deferral be accepted.
So motion to defer. Is there a second to that motion? It is seconded, Mr. Reed. Moved and seconded to defer the application in order to allow transportation, in particular, to provide clarity on it. Those in favor, show of hands, please.
Will the site plan be updated? I'm assuming
Excuse
that's
me,
another purpose
excuse
of it
me,
as well.
excuse me, we are in committee now.
It's me, Mr. Chair.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
That's okay. I'm just wondering if that's gonna also include an opportunity for the applicant to update the site plan so that it shows the restrictive covenant. Just noting that was another reason for the deferral.
very good. All right, let's do the vote once again then, please. Motion moved and seconded to approve for those reasons. Show of hands, those in favor of the motion. So the motion is carried and the deferral request is granted. And with that, we move to item number 2.
Through you, Mr. Chair, sorry, just one other matter. There are no files to be closed for today.
No. Very good. So, just for the record, the Deputy Secretary Treasurer has confirmed that there are no files to be closed today. Thank you for that. Number 2 item is number 2 Minto Street, and on this application, the panel has before it applicant's materials, a 2017 committee decision, parking study by Transplan, presentation materials from the agent. There is correspondence from Traffic Planning and Transportation Services. There's a staff report from TRCA, and there is correspondence both in support and in opposition. In support from 16 Minto, and in opposition from 2B Minto, 22 Minto, plus a 30 signature petition signed by various owners of Minto, Sears Street, and Knox Street, received on the 1st of December. So, on this application, moderator, are there speakers standing by? There are. Okay, then. Let's have the applicant join us by stating your name, please.
My name is Mehdi Ajhan. I'm here as the architect of the project and also as the representative of my client, the owner of 2 Minto Street.
Very good. Good morning to you, and thank you. You have 5 minutes to present your application to the panel. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I do my best. Actually, the application is a modest residential densification project in this area, which is aligned with all other common and enforced policy of the City of Toronto, providing more residential option for residents. The property, 2 Minto, was abandoned for a couple of years, okay, and we are proposing an apartment building, which is allowed by the current zoning by the unofficial plan. This project is subject to site plan approval, the SPA, and you may know better than me that we have to provide numerous study, numerous research to make sure that address all the concern and issue. And this project came a long way from late 2019 till now. We had several meetings and back and forth with the planning, engineering department, transportation, and all other authorities to make sure that this proposal can address all potential concern and issues. what is in front of you as a minor variance is the result of all these efforts that we had from 2019. If I want to categorize the variance that we are asking for today, basically we are asking for gross floor area variance, FSI. We are asking for front setback and building depth. We are asking for side setback, and also required parking space and landscape. And I will go through each of them, each category so briefly. Regarding the gross floor area and FSI variance, I would like to see, as you can see on the first and second page of our presentation material, in this area, in this neighborhood, having what we call multi-family residential building is very common. I mean, not for the last couple of years. It used to we have so many multi-family residential building over there. Same as the immediate building on the north side of our project as a Riverdale Co-op building, which is a multi-family, multi-story residential building. We have a bakery condo building and adjacent on the west side of our building. We have apartment building and townhouses on the other side of Minto Street, which their address is at Sears Street. We have 16 Minto Street, which is a triplex building, and also we have 914 Eastern Avenue at the south of Minto Street, which is another amazing densification project which got approved recently on October 2021. And what they got approval for the FSI was 2.12, while we are asking for 1.82. I'll just try to make a picture to see what's happening in the neighborhood in terms of multi-intensification and multi-family residential building. Regarding the front setback and depth, if I can have, yeah, exactly the third page. What we try to achieve here is providing a transition between our eastern neighbor, which is a single family dwelling with a very small front yard and a regular rear yard, and to our western condo building, which has a regular front yard and a very small rear yard. What we propose is something in between and providing a transition over there. And the front setback variance, what we are asking is just for the first and second floor, which is aligned with the eastern neighbor, and on third and fourth floor, which is we have a step back and we are aligned with our western neighbor. I believe that on page 2 and 3, the 3D view is more, have a better view to do that, to follow this fact. Regarding the side setback, considering the existing context of the neighborhood, you know, small properties with very small side yard setback, we try to be aligned with the existing pattern of neighborhood, and on top of that, we provided a shadow study, which is part of this presentation. The more extensive shadow study is part of our SPA application. This shadow study we provided, can I have the fourth page of our presentation? Oh, I guess you have it in front of you, but I cannot see it on the screen. Based on the shadow study, we make sure that we don't have any unacceptable effect on neighboring property, which we don't, basically considering the direction of the building to the true north. For the variance number 4, not number 4, for those variants regarding the landscaping. The reason that we are asking for landscaping variance, if I can have the previous page of our presentation, I would like to mention something. Yes, thank you. The main reason that we are asking for this landscaping allocation variance is the location of our front yard property line. As you can see, there is a gap, huge gap between our property line and a concrete sidewalk on a Minto Street on the left side of the drawing side plan that I put over there. Those portions, which is part of our landscaping design, we already submitted landscape design through the SPA process, and what we propose over there is just a soft landscaping. But since outside of our property line, it won't be considered, it won't be part of this calculation for the landscaping. And on top of that, we had several back and forth with the planning department and engineering department to make sure to minimize the effect of this.
Your time is up.
I just have one more item.
I'll ask for your final comment very quickly, please.
Sure. the final one is regarding the parking study. We engaged a Transplant as a professional traffic study. They did the research and investigation, provided the study. What I wanted to just add on top of the report.
Your time is now up. Your time is now up.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to the speakers that are registered to speak to this application. Moderator.
Alex Descartier.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we do. State your name, please. State.
Thank you. Alex DeCartier. I live at 2B Minto Street, directly to the west of 2 Minto Street. I'm representing the condo owners in that building.
Very good, Alex. You have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I put a letter forward on behalf of our group that outlines, basically the 4 tests of a variance, because that's what your committee looks at. What it occurs to me is, and occurs to us, is that when you're asking for 10 variances to shoehorn a larger building into a smaller lot, that it's overreaching. This is a 2,800 square foot lot, and you're looking at about a 1.84 density, where obviously in a residential neighborhood, the current zoning is 1 times density. The speaker earlier was speaking to other projects in the neighborhood that were multifamily dwellings. Those properties exist on Queen Street. They exist on Eastern Avenue. They do not exist on the residential neighborhood area, including Sear Street, which we brought forward, those 4 townhouses, which are single-family dwellings, to our knowledge. The building that we're in is a multifamily unit because it was an existing non-conforming building that we turned into residential units. So the concern is not that there shouldn't be something here or shouldn't be multifamily, because we all agree that multifamily residential is necessary in development in Toronto. But 8 units in a neighborhood, in a small street where there are not anything like that anywhere on the street, seems overreaching. I know there was a parking study done, but this is a dead-end street where there is not a lot of parking. To have 8 residential units with only a guest and an accessible parking spot really puts a burden on the parking. Obviously there's concerns. I know they've gone through site service, but this is an area that deals heavily with stormwater issues on rainy times, and having a building that covers a large area of which would otherwise be landscaped area for allowing the natural disbursement of stormwater is also a problem that we see because we live it, and there's a lot of basement flooding in the neighborhood. We know that the storm capacity in the area is compromised, and this will not help with that. So basically, we feel it's overreaching. Should this be a 3 or 4 unit building? Absolutely, because the building in its current form, as suggested, is a mess, and it should be renovated and sorted out. And we're in agreement with that. Should it be 8 units? No, it's too many on a street that has single-family dwellings. And the parking issue is a major piece for us as well. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Panel members, are there questions? Yes, there is. Question for you, Alex.
Hi, I had a quick question, I guess, about, you mentioned the units on Sears Street, and when I was looking in the area, are those the ones that are directly across from the condo that you're in right now?
Yes.
Okay. They look like
Share
townhouses,
parking
I
lot.
believe?
Yeah, they're
Okay.
four single-family townhouses that were built in about 2006.
Okay, and they front onto,
Sears.
they don't front onto, they front onto Sears, or is that, so when you're on Minto looking at, facing your building or facing away from your building, are those the front elevation of the
No,
townhouses
that's
or
the rear elevation, yeah.
Oh,
It's the
okay,
rear,
okay.
yeah.
I was a little mixed up when I was there trying to figure out what street those were on, but okay, thank you, that helps. It's just an aside question. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, then. Let's move on to the next speaker, moderator.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there were 3 other speakers registered, from 8 Minto, 17 Minto, and 26 Minto.
Yes?
Neither of these speakers have attended. One speaker was called and joined, but then chose to leave, so none of them are present.
Okay, then. Sounds like we've made good attempts to include them, but they're not able to join us. So let us, in that case, return to the agent. And the agent will have a chance now to rebut the issues that were raised by Mr. DeCarche.
Okay. Perfect, thank you. If I can have those presentation document, page first, second, first or second, please. What I try to say as the pattern, those townhouses that we mentioned, yeah, they're facing both sides, all those townhouses having access from Minto and also the Sears, but on the other side of Sears, on the south side of Sears, we have another apartment building over there. And what I wanted to add is neighborhood is not just in one street. Neighborhood, there is a definition for that, we have to include, whatever happening over there. Regarding the flooding issue, we already aware of that, and based on what we did communicate with the TRCA, they informed me based on all the infrastructure they are proposing now, they are building now, all this area now is in a floodplain, but it will be out of floodplain soon. That's why they didn't have any issue with this thing. And also, I wanted to add the parking issue that I know our neighbor at 2B Minto indicated about that. Our parking study shows all the professional finding and research over there. And on top of that, I wanted to say that what we are proposing is a small unit, mostly one bedroom unit, walk-up unit which is attracting for young families. And based on the lifestyle that these kind of family using a public transportation, having a bicycle, walking lifestyle is very common. And on top of that, what all of us provided for this study was for 2020, which was pre-pandemic or early pandemic condition, which I believe that this pandemic has caused obvious changes in all of our lifestyle, such as all of us now sitting in our home and having a virtual hearing. And I believe that in this new era, working from home is a very common condition, and it is in favor of whatever that we have on this application. If you have any other question, I will be more than happy to address them.
Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, the question was raised by the speaker, Mr. DeCarche, about stormwater management. His feeling was that the site didn't do its share of managing stormwater. Could you comment on that, please?
Yes, definitely. We already submitted our stormwater management study by hiring an engineering firm, and the city did an extensive review on that. We came up with several back and forth, make sure to addressing those concerns. Whatever, if we get approved or not, whatever happening through the site plan approval process, the city, the engineering department will make sure that there won't be any big issue with the stormwater management over there. The process, the design is already is on the go, and we are at the position that say, okay, there won't be considerable change to our proposal. There are some concerns that we can issue, we can address them, we can solve them. But what I would love to add is the engineering department will review whatever we submitted. Our stormwater management study already submitted, and we are in the middle of that process.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, other questions? Yes, there are for the applicant.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Vell.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it seems that one of the speakers has joined us.
Very
I
good.
just want to give her opportunity.
Okay, we do want to include speakers where we can. So, panel, another speaker has become available, and I do want to hear from that speaker. So let's have that speaker join us by stating their name, please.
Lisa DiMaria.
Oh, hi, good morning, everyone. Apologies for being a little bit late this morning. I did not actually
Lisa?
prepare anything.
Hello.
Yes, I'm here.
If you
Can you hear me?
We hear you very clearly. I'd like you to, if you just state your name for the record, please.
Absolutely. My name is Lisa DiMaria. My family and I are residents and owners of 8 Minto Street. I just wanted to attend today to support what my neighbor, Alex Cartier, has also brought forward as concerns. My family, we a few years ago also built a home on Minto Street. And we chose this street because of how quiet it was. This is a fantastic street. Wonderful for our 2 young children to be brought up on. We have, like Mr. Cartier has mentioned, major concerns about the size of this build that is being proposed. We absolutely understand that Minto Street is due for construction and due for updating. However, just from as you can see from the plans that were just shown, the height of this building and the size is just absolutely really concerning to us and what it is going to do to our neighborhood, to the makeup of it. And parking, as was submitted with the letter of concern from our other neighbor, is clearly an issue on this street. We have lots of young children that are here, and to have, potentially 4 or 5 more cars searching for parking on this street on a daily basis is a real concern for us. So I just wanted to voice my support of our neighbors on Minto against the size of this build. Absolutely, the property needs to be developed, but we do not think that this is an appropriate build for our street, and that is all I would wanted to say today. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for yours. Just stand by for a moment in case there are questions for you from panel members. Panel, any questions? Very good. Thank you very much. We'll go back now to the applicant agent. And agent, this time I'd like you to, if you would, to respond to those comments and concerns, please.
Sure. Thank you for that time. I just want to add, the comment that we are not asked for any variance for the height. It's allowed. It's as of right. And for regarding the FSI GFA that we are asking, there are so many similar cases, which I gave you one of them only, but we did this back and forth with the planning department about what is happening in the neighborhood, and we are even not on top of those applications. We are very at the the midpoint of any new application going over there. And I want to add one more thing. Regarding the laneway widening, we have a laneway at the rear of our property, and as part of our application, we are conveying part of our property to do that lane widening application. So I believe that it is aligned with the improvement of this neighborhood, improvement of the quality of rear laneway, and also having a new building in abandoned property in a neighborhood. Again, for the parking study, I do understand all the concern, and we watch it so closely. All the findings, we try to be on the most conservative situation to not add any issue on this street and neighborhood, which was supportable by the transportation and planning as well.
Thank you very much. Panel members, questions? Yes, Ms. Valentini, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to flesh out a little bit the FSI. When I look at the application, I initially did have concerns about the FSI, and you did mention the property on Eastern. I didn't get the address, but I think it's in that block. And what about, and Eastern is a different type of, obviously, street. It's more of a major street than this one. So in terms of FSI, in this is sort of more in the sort of smaller side streets, is there anything comparable?
Actually, we provided before for the planning because we came for them a more aggressive one. For example, we have an application on a Minto, when Minto is connecting to the eastern one. We do have some other townhouses over there, row houses over there. There were something, I don't have anything on top of my head, but I know that we did this back and forth with the planning department. We were proposing around 2, and then we had to reduce it to 1.85, which is the current application.
When coming up with that number, when you were having discussions with planning, you looked at sort of the general FSIs in the neighborhood, I'm assuming? I just, you know, does look like a large building, so I'm trying to wrap my head around how it's going to fit within the context of the neighborhood. I know that, oh, sorry, I cut you off.
Okay, so no problem. What I try to say, even, you know, because there are some buildings, some older building than us, for example, the Riverdale, the Riverdale Co-op project, which is exactly north of us, part of those buildings facing to the laneway, not the Queen Street, or those townhouses on Sears Street, they are facing the Minto Street. All the parking, all the access is through the Minto Street. It's not just their rear elevation. Basically, they are using the Minto Street, although their address is from the Sears one. Or, you know, that Sears Street, which is just a couple of streets from now. All those kind of things in a neighborhood is more than what we are proposing, and we try to be something in between.
Okay, so I know the townhouses you're talking about, the ones that are, I think I asked the other the neighbor about those. Those are over comparable in FSI to what you're proposing?
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, I think those were my questions.
Mr. Cheng, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. So I have a few questions. You might have mentioned it in your presentation, but I just want to go
Mr. Cheng, just speak up a touch,
Yes.
please. We're having difficulty.
All right, sorry. Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Okay, that's great. So the first thing I want to ask about is a previous decision that was approved a couple years ago. Have you built anything from that decision?
No, actually, that decision was for the previous owner, even not my client. You know, they got those approval on March 2021, and then my client bought this property. They didn't do anything on that application.
Okay, so do you know what is the existing FSI now?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
We're having a little trouble hearing you. Please.
Your existing FSI.
Okay, there wasn't any
I'm so
existing
sorry. Can
FSI.
you repeat it now?
Can I go now? Okay, the existing condition
so
of the
I'm just curious about existing condition now. Like what is it on in the lot now?
The existing condition is abandoned property. It used to be a body shop, commercial body shop for repairing car, but it was abandoned for more than a couple of years, and we did the environmental study phase 1 and phase 2 to make sure that there won't be any environmental issue. Now I can say it was abandoned for a couple of years, but before that it used to be a body shop repairing site for the cars.
I see. And I might have missed that. Are you going through a site plan application now?
Yes, sir. We are in middle of our site plan application. Our application was in from 2019, late 2019, and at this stage, planning department and the city feel comfortable that the application is mature enough.
And planning staff have advised you this is the time to apply for a minor variance and basically assist you to go over the zoning variance, am I right?
Exactly. We wish to apply sooner, but we had to apply some changes back and forth, and now they decided, okay, the application is
I
mature
see
enough.
the TIC report, usually they don't issue that kind of statement until the end of the SPA, so I just assume you've been through it. Just want to talk to you to confirm. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Those kind of changes that we have to do through SPA is very minor, which is okay.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, panel, are there further questions to the applicant? Hearing none.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Sorry, it turns out we have another speaker on the line now.
Well, do you know what? I feel it's our opportunity to hear that speaker. So it's unusual, but we do have another speaker who has managed to connect. And we've had some other difficulties this morning, so let's bring that speaker on who registered in advance to hear their submission. Who would that be?
Hi, Lisa Lazary. I believe I've unmuted you.
Okay, then Lisa, if you'd join us by stating your name, please.
Sure. My name is Lisa Lazary, and I'm at 26 Minto Street. Just wanted to let you know I actually have been on the phone for an hour and 20 minutes, and I was sending out rapid emails saying, I'm here, I'm not sure why you guys had me as not available to speak. But anyways, I do apologize for that.
There's no apology needed, Lisa. We've had some difficulties technically, so I'm glad that we got to you and that you have your opportunity to address. You have 5 minutes to address the panel.
Yes. Thank you so much. So good morning to everyone. I'm speaking today on behalf of the Minto Street community. Do apologize for the length of the letter of opposition that we submitted, but as you can see, we're very passionate and a very family-friendly street that is opposed to this proposed build. I've lived on Minto Street for 22 years, and there are some who have been here for even longer. Many, quite a few actually, who have returned to their childhood homes after the passing of their parents. Just like to point out that we are a very unique pocket in this very large city. It's a small dead-end street with single-family dwellings and is located directly beside the TTC Russell streetcar yard. It's surrounded by one-way streets to the east and to the west, and the only access that we have by car or on foot to Minto Street is from Eastern Avenue. We're not just neighbors here, we're family. We watch out for each other, we help each other, support each other, and we pull together during really challenging times. Just to give you a couple of examples of the community, during COVID, when we were in lockdown and the children on the street were celebrating birthdays and not allowed parties, an email would go out and every house would place large homemade happy birthday signs with the kid's name on it in the front window and decorate their porches with balloons, just so the parents could walk the kids around the street and see the special signs and decorations just for them. Another example was when Halloween was canceled due to COVID. We banded together, made it exciting for everybody. Each home decorated their front yard and placed individual bags of candy on the table in front of their homes. One of the neighbors set up a sound system with scary music, and the children stood on the street in front of their homes and rotated to each house, guided by the stop and start of the music to collect their candy and ensure social distancing. This year, we again pulled together, rented a bouncy castle, set up craft stations, had a haunted yard, and created a fun-filled day for everybody. I would like to add that I don't have children at home anymore, but like many neighbors without kids, we all still participate. Each summer we have a street party. The start of each of these events includes cleaning and sweeping the street, bouncy castles, activities for kids and adults, a potluck, street hockey game, and ends with a small display of fireworks. We are able to do all of these things because of the nature and layout of Minto Street, due to the fact that it is a dead-end street with little traffic and single-dwelling residents where everybody sees and knows each other. Parking on Minto has become very challenging. As I mentioned, the only access to Minto Street by car and on foot is from Eastern Avenue. No other streets run onto Minto. The large Russell streetcar yard sits directly to the east of Minto, and there are no streets south of Queen that run east or west. They're all north or south. They're all one-way streets with parking only on one side. If I were to arrive home with a car full of groceries and there's no parking spaces, I would have to drive across Eastern all the way to Liang Street, which runs north, across Queen, just to get to Knox Street, which runs south and is the closest street to Minto. It's a one-way street with parking only on one side. If there's no parking on Knox, then I would again have to go back along Eastern, up Liang, again a one-way running north with only parking on one side. And if there's no parking there, I would then have to drive across Queen Street to the east, past the Russell streetcar yard to Connaught Street, which again is a one-way street running south with parking only on one side and streetcar tracks running down the center of the street. And if there's no parking on Connaught, I would then have to go further east to Woodfield, again a one-way with only parking on one side of the street. If I were lucky enough to find parking on one of these 4 streets, I would then have to make multiple trips walking back and forth along Eastern Avenue just to get my groceries home. To expect this from a parent with small children or from one of the seniors on the street is unacceptable. Add to that ice and snow in the winter months. I know as a female I would be terrified to come home late at night and have to do this walk alone. And I know that there was a parking study that was done from a couple of years ago. In our letter, we pointed out that there was an error in that. One of the streets that they had, I believe,
Lisa?
they said that yes?
I'm going to ask you for your final comments, please.
Oh, okay, sure. To allow the development with 8 units will result in more vehicles from tenants and their guests and cause unacceptable adverse impact upon the neighborhood. The increased cars and increased traffic will completely change the character of the street and the unique family feel of the community. The proposed development is not compatible with existing houses in the neighborhood with respect to size, setback, and side yards. It will intrude on privacy, provide little green space, and is monstrous compared to all other homes on the street. The impact on neighboring properties is vast and incompatible with the established built form and character of the neighborhood. In addition, with garbage pickup only once every 2 weeks, the amount of garbage from 8 units will result in disgusting odors and the attraction of rodents, which will greatly affect our neighbors.
Lisa, your time. Lisa, your time is now up. Thank you. Your time is now up.
Okay.
Your time is up. The
Thank you.
5-minute limit. Thank you. Panel members, questions for this speaker? Okay. Very good. Let's go back to the. This is unusual, but I'm glad, Lisa, that you explained about your having waited for an hour and 20 minutes because I was concerned something like that may have been the case with the other difficulties we've had this morning. So let's go back to the agent and ask the agent to comment, if he wishes, on these concerns by another street resident.
I believe that I already addressed those concerns. I just want to add something here. I definitely can confirm that it's a lovely neighborhood. It's not just we are just designing a project over there. We had been involved in some other project in the same street as well. But again, just the context of neighborhood. For example, we had an approved permit for a triplex building over there on 16 Minto, which is under construction now. And one more thing I want to add, because we were seriously concerned about the parking study. If I can have the last page of our presenting document, we will review it so closely with our traffic study. We reviewed the neighborhood, the area that we were talking about. That I did several site visits over there to make sure that everything is clear over there. Based on all finding that they have, which is like the last page. This is not the last one. There is not yet this one. This is the area that we did a study. Based on our professional study that they have, there is 191 total parking supply available over there with the residual rate that they already mentioned in their study. And also not just us, the transporting department were so picky as well. They review it and ask for some extra clarification, which we did, and finally they support us on this application.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, with that, I'm just going to check with the moderator. Moderator, I guess we've heard now from all the registered speakers except for Emily Lamb. Okay, and we don't think we're going to be able to get in connection with Emily. Okay, so having determined that speakers who wish to speak have had their chance and that they've all had their opportunity to speak, let's take the application into committee. And, panel members in committee now, we can have some discussion or move to a motion. It's only if there's anything you want to say about this application, then I encourage you to go ahead. Anyone with a comment on this? Mr. Byatt, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is an interesting situation. It is somewhat of a unique location, given that Minto is basically a dead-end road, and access in and out is not exactly easy, as the last speaker had identified. While the subject property is adjacent to I believe it's number 2B, MINTO, which is itself a multi-use facility building. Somehow I get the feeling that this particular application is somewhat of an overbuild for that end of the street. The previous application, which I believe was 2018, was for a single family dwelling, which would have fitted quite nicely into this particular street. The proposed application seems to be an overbuild. I'd like to hear from my other colleagues as well on this one.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Okay. Other comments from anyone? Mr. Reed, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Chair. I agree that this is a difficult application to deal with because it is pushing the envelope, I think. But I support it. I think that it has made an effort to blend in with its neighbors in terms of kind of pushing and pulling at the front and back. And I think the massing model of the slightly broader area does show that there are many multifamily or larger FSI projects that exist, and I think that it is obviously going to be a change for the street, but I think it's a necessary thing to insert more units into neighborhoods, and I think it's done it sensitively enough, so I'll be supporting it.
All right. If anyone else wishes to speak, Mr. Chang, Ms. Valentina, go ahead if you wish.
I have to say, I find this one to be, I'm on the fence on this one. So after listening to all the submissions, I still, like Mr. Byatt, have concerns about the size of the proposal, given that it's, I understand to one side there is the conversion of the existing, I think it was a bakery building into condos or lofts, and you know, I think that context is a bit different because there seems to be, when I went to visit the site, more space across the street. They've got the townhomes. I feel like this one is a little bit kind of more wedged in, particularly because it's abutting up to a you know, smaller, quite a bit smaller residential unit of that house that may in time be redeveloped. But I had concerns as well about the parking issue, and I know this area, and even going into it, while I understand what the transportation study is saying in terms of there being other spaces, it really is difficult to find and walk into, as the neighbor pointed out across the street. There's no access to the street except through Eastern Avenue. So what happens when there's no parking on the street? So that I had an issue with the parking as well, and the study in terms of accessibility to the site on foot if you had to park elsewhere. You know, I don't think it's abnormal to have to park on another street in most neighborhoods in the city when you have reliant on-street parking, but I think in this case it's a little different because access to the street is really, there's only one way because the TTC breaks up access to anywhere else. And I thought the FSI comparables, especially on Eastern and Queen, it's a very different, even though it's close by, it's a very different, those are major streets, and this is a small street that's a dead end. So, I've got this back and forth with it. I do agree residential units are necessary, but I think this is just a bit too much on this site, given how the street is laid out. So I won't be supporting it as well.
Thank you. Very good. Well, go ahead, Mr. Chang, if you wish.
Can you hear me now? I just changed my Wi-Fi to a different one. So I in fact support this application. I think the massing was adjusted nicely and fit into the neighborhood. Parking is a main issue that we're looking at it here now. I have reviewed the parking study, and I was also looking in a way that before the bakery was an apartment, and before this lot is being turned into a residential, it was a mechanic, it was a bakery. The traffic density would have been much higher than now, even if it is being used as an apartment fixed at 7 units or 8 units. So for that reason, I think, and if you look at this part of the city, We all understand that there's a history of, having small workers' home units with the train tracks, with the factories around. It's been a mixed-use area. I think that character can be maintained, even though if we intensify and turn a mechanical structure into a residential unit. So for that reason, I think the parking itself is not going to be, yes, we are looking at the last 5, 10, 6 years when this bakery was abandoned and turned into an apartment. Yes, you see that comments, but I think for a longer horizon of the development of this neighborhood, I don't think this apartment will create that. In fact, I think the conversion will stabilize and turn this into a nicer neighborhood with the introduction of a higher population here. So I will support the application.
Thank you. And in studying this application in advance, I was already concerned that the cul-de-sac nature of the street was unique, and that this was stretching it probably a bit too much. As I listened to the three speakers, what I heard from them was they understand the need for redevelopment. They're welcoming of a unit that would provide for several units and for families, because they see it as a family street, but that this is simply going too far, what Mr. Byatt described as overreach. So as I listened to that, I did, by my sense that this is a unique environment created by the fact it's a cul-de-sac, and this, due to its massing, is going too far to receive my support. The parking issue, I think, also is clear. So I'll look to someone, please, for a motion on the application. Mr. Byatt, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to put forward a motion to refuse the application as is.
Motion to refuse. Is there a second? It is seconded by Ms. Valentini. So moved and seconded to refuse. Those in favor, show of hands, please. Those opposed? So, let the record show that Mr. Cheng and Mr. Reed were opposed. The motion is carried and the application is refused. And panel moves along now to item number 3, 570 Main Street. On this application, we have before us applicant's materials, staff report from Urban Forestry, and correspondence in concern from 568 Main. Bryce Bates and Deborah Miller. So, moderator, we'll have the agent join us, please, by stating your name.
My name is Hong Xin Xin. I'm the agent on behalf of the owner.
Very good. You have 5 minutes to make your presentation to the panel.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, board members. I'm speaking on behalf of the owner for this application. So currently, the lot, we have a one-story building on the lot. So the lot has fairly large space, 25 by 23 feet. So we are proposing a 3-story detached house with very large setback on the third floor. So when you look from the street, actually you will not really see the third floor. So for that, we need several variants, which require your support. So the first variance we will need is the landscaping. Basically, we will need 32% of landscaping instead of 50. And for the soft landscaping, we are requesting 35% instead of 75%. And also for the lot coverage, we will need 43%. Yeah, you can see from the side plan, actually, we have a fairly large rear yard setback. Basically, I think it's more or less like 44, 45 feet. And the front yard setback, we will need 1.3 meters instead of 1.46 meters. And the building height, basically, we are request 9.8 meters. And the building length actually is a little bit over. It's 17.46 meters instead of 17 meters. And the floor index we will need 98% instead of the allowed 75%. Also, I think there's another technical requirement. Basically, currently the building is kind of fairly close, kind of joining to the neighborhood at north. We will suggest 0.1 meter instead. And also we have a really minor request for the parking space. So the zoning bylaw actually requires 3.2 meters. So we are suggesting 3.04 meters, which is 10 feet. I think that's the variance we are requesting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Let's move on to the those wishing to speak to the application, and we'll have moderator. Is Mr. Bates with us?
Yes.
Mr.
Hello, yes.
Good morning. Just state your name for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Bryce Bates, and I have my wife, Deborah Miller, with me, and we live at 568 Main Street, which is just south of 570. And, well, I'll speak quickly that we've been living here for 8 years, and we are concerned about the larger houses that are being built on the neighborhood. There's many of them in our area. We're just north of Lumsden on Main Street, and most of them are bungalows or two-story buildings. We are in a 1.5-story building. And next door to us, south of us, is a bungalow. Next to that is a very large building that was built a couple of years ago. Now on the north, we're looking at having a large building. But our main objection is with parking availability. We have the right of way. We have submitted a letter of concern, which hopefully you can refer to there.
Yes.
But we have a right of way which is meant to be a driveway for both properties originally. And there is currently on 570, there is a structure in the back which is a garage, or was meant to be a garage, and was used as a garage in the past. So there would be access to that. And we would also have access to parking in our yard. Now, unfortunately, if you look at the photos, we had somebody coming in and trying to check in the space to see how it would be if the structure that is to be built were indeed built as planned, because there will be an extension on the east side which would bring it to a point where it would be hard to turn the parking to our yard.
Turn in or turn out.
Yes, and we have an express grant which is there to allow a vehicle to turn into our yard, because we have to access it through their part of their yard in order to turn in. The present plans will not leave enough space to swing the vehicle without hitting the wall of the new building. And if you were to refer to the photos, you'd see that we attempted to see what would happen by using a medium-sized vehicle to park. And we found that that was very hard, or pretty well impossible to do.
Mr. Bates, just so
Yeah.
for my help, we're looking at a photograph here on the screen now. Is your house the house to the right or the house to the left?
We're to the right.
To the right. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, and you'll see that I put, if you can see in the one photo, well, there's a couple of photographs where I have a rope and I laid that out to extend it to where the house would, the new building would be, the new house would be. And as you can see in one of the photos, particularly the front wheel of the car is almost touching that rope, and it hasn't even turned to get into our yard. It wouldn't be able to get in there. Because if it were to try to turn any more, which it would need to do, it would hit the wall of the new building. In fact, it looks like from this angle, the mirror of the vehicle would be already hitting that wall.
Okay.
So that's our main concern. And if you look at the other photos, you can see different angles showing that would be pretty hard to maneuver.
Okay, thank you. I have a question for you. So, as I look at the current existing condition there, your house is to the right, and your rear is grass. So I take it that you don't typically park in the rear. Is that correct?
This is Deborah Miller speaking.
Yes.
The rear, if you go through our gate, the rear is a cement parking area. It's been used as a parking pad in the past. Currently, because I don't drive at this moment, we are not parking the car back there. But that is the intention, and there is space to park there. What we want to preserve is the future use, as we may buy a car, we may have a family member with the vehicle, and on-street parking is permit only in the evening and very difficult to find. For the history of this house, this shared area has always been accessed. So it's the egress in and out we're worried about.
Okay. Now I've actually let you go beyond your 5 minutes here, but I think I do see the issue now. From those photographs do help. Okay, panel members, any questions for this speaker? Okay, then thank you. And moderator, I understand we have another speaker? We'll ask that speaker to join us, please, by stating your name.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you clearly. State your name.
Good morning. My name is Adelaide Turkson. I live in the property at 572 Main Street. I try to stick to the fact, and maybe Mr. Chair and members, you would want to refer to the survey. So I'm here today to respectfully request that your committee refuse the request for variance to Chapter 10, 20, 40, 73B. The proposed setback from the side north lot line is 0.1 meter, or 89% smaller than the minimum required setback. The proposed setback will reduce the width of our driveway by 20 centimeters, hence reducing our driveway and backyard accessibility for many types and size of vehicles. I believe that the variance requested is too large, too important, and its consequences is too great to be considered as minor. I'm also here to support our neighbors, Deborah and Bryce. I believe that the proposed dwelling doesn't need to be as large for them to fully enjoy their property, for the applicant to fully enjoy their property. And it should certainly not be built to the detriment of the existing neighbors. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Any questions, panel? Okay, thank you. All right, then we shall.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Ms.
No, I
Valentina.
had a question. Sorry, I didn't see my hand. I think she said she was from 572. I'm just trying to figure out the setback issue. Is that not where the current house is located, or? And you said access to your driveway.
Yes, so if you want to refer to the survey, so I live in 572. If you look at the survey, that's the property on the right side. So the driveway is currently 2.47 meter, the width of the driveway. And because the new proposed dwelling, they want to build a house closer to the line, the north line. So that's going to reduce our driveway to 227 meter.
Do you mind pulling up drawing A1.2?
Sorry?
What I'm seeing now is the expansion basically is aligned with the existing house inside their property to the extent of your house. So the expansion will become as deep as your house within their own property.
Yes.
On the existing wall. So I don't think they're building outside of the existing wall, and they're not building outside of the property line.
No, they are not building outside their property line, but they want to build it closer to it. And that's the request.
Is it closer than existing?
Yes.
But in the site plan, it's not. It's showing a continuous line.
No, no. Let me see what the application form maybe.
So the application form is the allowed setback, not the existing.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
I think this relates to minor variance number 4, which says the minimum front yard. Pardon me. No, I'm wrong. Yes.
You know what? I think looking at the survey, maybe it is just getting a bit closer. I think the survey shows it as maybe as 0.31. Meters away from the lot line, and it looks like they're going to 0.1. I believe. I mean, we should maybe get the agent to confirm. But now that I'm looking at the survey in more detail, I was switching it around. I thought you were on the side with the right of way. You're on the side with the private drive. So
yes,
your
correct.
concern is that it was existing. Is that? But although parts of it looks like they're closer, so it's really hard to say. I guess the applicant would have to clarify that. But you're saying the 0.27 or 0.25 is an issue for access on your driveway? Is that right?
Yes, correct. That's currently it's already very narrow for any standard size vehicle. So by reducing it by an additional 20 centimeter, that's going to change a lot.
But you don't have a right of way over that piece of their land, right?
No.
Just so no. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, then. If there are no further questions for this speaker, we'll go back to the agent. Agent, this is your chance to address those concerns raised by the two speakers.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, regarding the comment from 568, I think we still have a right of way there. Actually, the right of way, if you look at the drawing, it is not really reduced. Actually, it's just a little bit larger than the previous. We have respected the right of way. And also, if you look at the site plan regarding the right of way and also the length of the number at 568, the right of way actually is kind of exceeding the length of my neighbor there. I guess the concern of my neighbor actually is really seeing they try to use the property at 570 as their turn, driveway turn, right? So I'm not quite sure that's a property or not. But I believe we have respected, we have considered the parking, and I don't think we compromise their parking in any ways. And as far as the concern from 570, I think, I mean, the building currently is fairly close to the property line. Basically, we just try to maintain that status there, so it's more or less in the same place, right? And it's within our property. And also, I believe, you know, I mean, typically you would have a fence along that property line. I'm not quite sure how this is going to affect the neighborhood at 570.
Okay, thank you very much. Panel members, questions for the agent. Ms. Valentini.
In terms of the variances that caught my eye, it was the height variance and the number of stories in combination with the FSI. And in looking at the area, there are a lot of bungalows in 2 stories, and you're proposing 3, which brings your height up a fair bit. Can you point out others? I think there were some others maybe that had 3 stories in the sort of the immediate vicinity. And how will this compare to the height of some of those?
Okay, yeah, actually, if you look at the history of our application here, we work with the city planning department for this item, and basically, I mean, also in that neighborhood it's changing. If you look at 566, I believe, it's a 3-story building. I mean, our height is almost matching the height there, and also basically when we work with the planning department, they are saying, okay, you could have a large setback for the 3rd story. Yeah, currently I think we have a really large setback there. So when you look at from street, you will not really notice that you know, it's a 3-story there because of the large setback.
Other questions?
So are you then saying, just to make sure I understand, there are the other 3 stories that are on the street? There's a few, I've just noted maybe 3 in the vicinity that are newer infills.
Yeah.
Your height's going to match those, more or less?
Yeah,
you're not going to be towering over the ones that already look sort of
no,
somewhat taller.
No, basically, if you look at 566, right? So it's the height almost the same.
Yeah, staff, I wonder if you could put up the drawing that shows the left side elevation. And we can see that setback. How the left side elevation. So, what exactly is the setback? It looks like it might be 1 meter or 1.3 meters. How far is that setback of the 3rd floor from the main wall of the 2 first stories?
Yeah, let me check on my AutoCAD here. I think it's more or less like yeah, it's more than 10 feet.
Say again, please.
Yeah, it's 11 feet.
11 feet.
Yeah.
Okay. More like 3.5 meters. Okay, thank you very much.
I
Okay.
just have a follow-up question.
Question, Mr. Cheng, go ahead.
Yes, so basically you talked to the city planning staff and they recommended you to recess the third floor by about 45 degrees. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of doing a hip roof, they allow you to do a flat roof, but they want you to push in with 45 degrees, and that basically results in that 3.3 meters with the front patio.
Yes, we work with community planner for the height requirement several times. Basically, that's what the city recommended, and we follow.
Okay, thank you.
Okay then. Any further questions for the applicant panel? Mr. Byatt, you had a question. Go ahead, please.
Just for the applicant, am I correct in assuming that the new build, once constructed, would not allow 570, the resident at 570, to access the rear yard, or am I mistaken?
No, I don't think so. We still have that right of way. If you look at the right of way there on the side plan, and I think we still have that that access. I mean, if you look at the existing condition and the current condition, the right of way for car access will not be compromised at all.
Okay. Thank you. That was my concern. Thank you.
Okay. If there are no further questions, we'll take the matter into committee, and we can move toward a motion. Does anyone have any comments they wish to make about it? Anything? Ms. Valentini?
Thank you. I understand the concerns of the neighbors, but when I do look at the documents and I see that, the building, in terms of the right-of-way between the proposal and 568, they are clear of the right-of-way. So, I mean, I'm not sure in terms of, our abilities. The fact that they're not building on the right-of-way is I think from my concern, addresses any concerns I might have, obviously. I don't know how access to their backyard works if they have to encroach beyond the right-of-way of the neighbor's property, but in any event, I don't think that's something that is in our hands. And the minor setback from the neighbor to the north, I don't think is, again, they're within the bounds of their property. We can't address whether or not the neighbor has the right to encroach on the applicant's property. My main concern was the massing and the size of it, and the fact that it's 3 stories. But I'm satisfied from the agent's explanation that there, the other 3 stories in the vicinity, it is a changing neighborhood, are going to be of similar height. And as you pointed out, Mr. Chair and Mr. Chang have fleshed out, the step back is such that, it's enough to mitigate any massing. So I'm in favor of the application, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know if any colleagues want to make any other comments.
No.
Nope.
If
Okay.
you care to make a motion, go ahead.
Motion? Yep, I'd like to make a motion for approval of the application. In my view, it fits in with the changing character of the neighborhood, and I believe it meets the 4 tests, and it would be subject to the conditions set out in the urban forestry memo, condition number 2 and 3.
Very good. Okay, then motion to approve. Is there a second? There is a second, Mr. Chang. So moved and seconded to approve, subject to forestry. Those in favor, show of hands, please. And that motion is carried unanimously, and the application is so approved. The panel moves on to item number 4, 195 Davisville Avenue. Here we are looking at applicant's materials, presentation material by the agent from December 1, and there are commenting reports from Transportation Services, one from June and one from November 2021. So, on this application, moderator will ask the agent to join us. Agent, state your name, please.
Good morning. My name is Magnus Clark. I'm with Paradigm Architecture and Design, acting as the agent for 195 Davisville Avenue.
Very good. Good morning. Okay, then. We have no one registered to speak to this other than the agent, so I can go right to the panel. Any questions, panel, for the agent? Anyone like a presentation? Hearing no such request, I'll look to panel then for a motion, please. Mr. Byatt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that this particular proposal is quite a desirable one, given its location as well. And as we've seen from transportation, there are no objections and no comments with regard to transportation issues. It's a short walk to the Davisville subway, so that makes it a very desirable area to be in. I think it meets all the tests, and therefore I'd like to propose a motion to accept without any conditions.
Motion to approve by Mr. Byatt. Is there a second? It is seconded by Mr. Reed. Moved and seconded to approve without condition. Those in favor, show of hands, please. And that motion is carried and the application is approved. Panel moves on to number 5. 98 Garnet Avenue, and here we've got applicant's materials as submitted, including various photographs, covering letter. There are a number of past Committee of Adjustment decisions dating back to 2016, 15, 14, 12, several others. And there is support in the form of 10 letters signed by the owners and occupants of addresses on Garnet Ave, Yarmouth and Yarmouth Road. Okay, and on this, we'll ask the speaker to join us, please, by stating your name.
Hello, my name is Allison Milne.
Good morning, Allison. Okay. I'm going to check with panel members to see. Panel members, any questions for the agent? Any desire for a presentation? I'm hearing none. And in that case, I'll look to panel for a motion, please. Mr. Reed, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. I think this is a sensitive application, and with both in terms of the height and the massing and the length, I think it's respectful of the neighbors to both sides in terms of kind of bridging that distance, and the massing's really not that far off of what's existing there now. So I think the variances being requested are minor, and I think this meets the 4 tests. So I would move to approve the application with no conditions.
Thank you. Second to that motion, there is. Mr. Byatt seconds. It is therefore moved and seconded to approve the application. All those in favor, show of hands. That motion receives unanimous support and is so approved. Panel moves on
Thank
to.
you very much.
Panel moves on to number 6. Number 6 is 464 Oakwood. Here we're looking at applicants submitted materials, including presentation materials, covering letter. We have email correspondence from the zoning examiner. And we have commenting reports from Transportation Services, dating to June and to November. So we'll ask the agent to join us, please. Just state your name.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Christian Chen of C2 Planning on behalf of the owner 464 Oakwood Avenue Limited. And my address is 157 Adelaide Street, West Toronto, Ontario. Thank you.
I'm sorry now. This is Christian Chan?
Yes, this is Christian Chen on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you very much. Okay. Very good. Moderator, we're showing 2 registered speakers. Okay, then. So, Mr. Chan, if you would, you have 5 minutes to present the sense and the flavor of your application to the committee. Please go ahead now.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. The proposal is to construct a 3-story residential fourplex on a major street that has good access to transit. I note that the TTC bus stop is approximately 30 meters to the south, just at the southerly intersection. So the proposal is for a new 3-story fourplex, which will contain units on each of the floor levels, including the basement. With regards to the proposed setbacks, the existing setbacks of the building are in fact smaller than what's being proposed. So the setbacks are proposed at 0.45 meters and 0.9 meters to the south. 1 parking spot will be provided on the site in the front yard, and I note that Transportation Services does not have any objections to the proposed number of parking spaces, and as well in our recent review of the November 10th parking zoning bylaw amendments as proposed by the chief planner for this particular type of development, that I'd like to note to the committee that the city is proposing in their draft bylaw amendment to 569/2013 the removal of parking minimums for fourplexes in the city. With respect to the immediate context, I do note in terms of 3-story buildings, 420 Oakwood is a 3-story building containing 5 units. Number 448 Oakwood is 3 stories. Number 478 Oakwood is 3 stories. Number 460, which is a triplex, is also a 3-story building, as well as 458 Oakwood and 473 Oakwood. So there are existing 3-story built forms in the immediate context. I'd also like to note that the depth and the length of the proposed building is less than the adjacent building to the south, which is 21.3. We are not seeking a depth and length variance. We're complying with the bylaw with regards to the depth and the length. With regards to maximum height, the proposed height at 11.77 meters is to the top of the guardrail on the roof of the structure. The actual massing of the building is proposed to be 11 meters, which complies with the bylaw for the height of a fourplex. With regards to the front yard setback, we also comply, and actually in our discussions with city planning, we were asked to revise the front yard setback to be more in line with the adjacent front yard setbacks. So this is a revised proposal pursuant to discussions with planning that have no objections to the proposal, and that's confirmed. With regards to the floor space index and the units, we are proposing 4 units. Where 2 units are proposed or required or maximum permitted in the bylaw. However, I do like to note again that it is a major street. There's TT access, and also pursuant to also the most recent report from the chief planner from the expanding housing options in neighborhoods, the multiplex study that just came out on November 10th, 2021, is that this proposal is entirely, in our opinion, entirely consistent with what is recommended by the chief planner in the provision of missing middle housing in the form of multiplex buildings along major roads in close proximity to transit on major streets. And just to note that city planning states that this type of housing is intended to be built across the city as a critical part of addressing Toronto's housing needs. So with that, there are a multitude of variances that you can see. There's a lot of variances that have to do with setbacks with regards to the platforms. This has been discussed with city planning as well and revised to remove platforms as well as adjust the platform setbacks with regards to the rear decks, which we have done pursuant to city planning's request. So with that, and subject to any further comments, I'd be happy to submit that as my presentation for this application, and thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll go now and we'll listen to the submissions by the registered speakers. So we'll ask the first registered speaker to join us by stating your name, please.
NEWMAN, you've been unmuted.
Oh, hi, my name is NEWMAN.
Good morning.
Good
Very
morning.
good. Okay, you're with us and we hear you well. You have 5 minutes to tell us about the impact this application you're concerned about.
Sure. I'm the owner at 466 Oakwood, so the house directly to the north of 464. Also the owner of 460, which actually has a minor correction. It's a two-story building with a basement, so that I don't think that a regular two-story house counts as a three-story house. But regardless, that's neither here nor there. The only minor concern I would say is that all the windows facing south of my building will be covered up, and consequent, it will be consequential for my tenants. And this is a very, very long building that's being proposed here, and yeah, it's going to be a little inconvenient, but I do understand that we have to move with housing, and the neighborhood is evolving, and in the end, if I ever want to do anything with my building, obviously changing the rules now would benefit me in the future. So I get that as well. So literally the only concern that I could voice is that all the sunlight will be taken away from my tenants and their windows that are facing south. This has already happened at 460 Oakwood as well, with when that big building 458 was put up, and it did cause me a lot of grief.
Just a moment. I'm going to ask staff. Could you put up the north elevation drawing for us to look at? You're to the north, correct? The what you're concerned. So we're going to put up the north elevation. So this is what your tenants would be looking at.
Yeah, they would have no sunlight because the building not only stretches the current building to the front and to the back, but also up. So any visibility that they would have that they are currently enjoying as a part of their rent would be taken away. And I know that when this happened at 460 Oakwood, because of 458, I did get a lot of, it caused me some grief with my tenants.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, any questions of the speaker? No. Okay, hearing none. We'll move on now to the next registered speaker and ask that person to join us. Now, this person, do we have contact with this person, moderator?
This particular person requested a phone call, no email, and they joined but have left. I'm going to try one more time just to see if there might have been an issue.
Let's just stand by while you make that call, and we'll see if we can connect with the speaker registered at 462.
Back to you as soon as possible. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
It does not sound like we were able to connect.
I beg your pardon?
Sorry, we got that person's voicemail, so we could not connect with her.
Oh, it's not able to connect. Okay. Okay, then, fine. So let's go back then to the agent. And agent will ask you to respond, but only to the issues that were raised by the first speaker, Mr. Moraes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thank Mr. Moraes for his comments. While I do appreciate the concern for the perceived impact that this may cause upon his property at number 462 to the south, I do like to note that the existing side yard setback of the building there now is 0.91 meters, and we're seeking to improve this to 0.99. And this setback actually respects an established easement and right-of-way that is existing on both number 462 and number 464 that requires a separation distance between the buildings for 1.98 meters distance. So this building will not be able to get closer to that side lot line. Neither would any future development in number 462 as well. I can certainly appreciate the concerns. From what I understand, it's a concern that could arise from the proposed height and the proposed depth, which are related to the massing potential or actual massing impact. So with regards to the depth, I'd just like to note that we're not seeking any length or depth variances. And in fact, the original proposal proposed the building further deeper into the lot to the west. And pursuant to our discussions and concerns raised by planning staff, we actually moved the building forward towards Oakwood in order to respect more of a appropriate massing and positioning of the building towards the street. Again, there are no depth and length variances that are sought that would otherwise give rise to the impact of a variance that normally would be requested for length or depth. And in combination with the height, sir, we are proposing for the main wall heights of 11 meters and the overall height of 11.77 meters, but that's the top of the guardrail. So the overall massing of the building at 11 meters for a 4-plex does comply with the maximum permitted height of the bylaw. And so I'd be happy to request the committee to tie the elevations and the plans to be substantially in accordance while we go to the building permit stage in order to secure the fact that the 11.77 meter height variance is reflecting the guardrail, not the overall massing of the height, in order to address any further concerns. And I believe those are my responses to Mr. Moraes' concerns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would you mind repeating that last, your final comment there, please, about the railing?
Yes, sir. So the railing is causing the variance for overall height at 11.77 meters. The actual massing of the height of the building is 11 meters and compliant with the bylaws. So the variance that is being requested for 11.77 is to the top of the guardrail because it is included pursuant to the zoning examiner's calculations as a structure, and so the height is measured to the top of that structure on the roof. So my recommendation to the committee is to tie the plans to be substantially in accordance to the elevation, so as to ensure that the height variance is tied to the guardrail and not to the actual height of the building itself.
Which elevation would that be? Tie it to north or south?
It would be tied to the south elevation, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, thank you. Any questions for this applicant? There's one, Mr. Reed, go ahead.
Thank you. To the applicant, I noticed in your materials that the site and its immediate neighbors on Oakwood is subject to site and area specific policy 317. Can you explain what that policy says, please?
Yes, so site and area specific policy 317 is with regards to permissions for commercial uses within that specific district. So this site's and area specific policy does cover portions of the immediate block and the residential RM zoning on this stretch of Oakwood. So in this
Okay, so
particular-
sorry, go ahead.
So in this particular case, since we're not proposing commercial uses in the building, then it doesn't apply in this particular instance.
Okay, so it's just a more permissive zoning.
Yes, and as we can see, and of course as noticed on the site visit and some of our supporting materials, there are a number of properties on the immediate block as well as in the adjacent blocks that contain commercial uses on the ground floor.
All right, thanks.
Ms. Valentini, go ahead, please.
Just
Followed
a
by
quick
Mr.
question
Byatt.
relating to the height. When I look at the elevations, it is, obviously a 3-story building. Does the height include the roof access, or is that not included? I'm just trying to look at the numbers.
Thank you, Ms. Valentini. No, so the zoning bylaw provides that there's certain roof elements such as a stair enclosure that do not require permissions or variances in this instance.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Mr. Byatt? Mr. Byatt, your microphone, please.
Thank you. I was just looking at the site plan A101. I'm just wondering about the rear yard. Does that indicate the dotted pattern that you have? Does that indicate essentially that all of that is soft landscaping?
I'm just confirming that, yes, that is correct, sir.
And the same thing with the south side. I think it's the south side of the building, at least on the lower portion of the site plan, and there's a little bit on the north side of it,
Yes.
on the top side of it.
Yes, sir, that's what I noticed on the site plan as well.
Thank you kindly. Thank you.
I'd just like also to note pursuant to that in our discussions with city planning, we worked with them to improve soft landscaping throughout the site. So the original proposal did have 2 parking spaces where the request from city planning was to improve the soft landscaping percentage, particularly on the front yard, in order to achieve more soft landscaping as part of this proposal.
Thank you. Okay then, if there are no further questions of the applicant, then we can take the application into committee, move on to a motion. If anyone has any comments they wish to make, that's fine. Ms. Valentini, go ahead, please.
Sure. I'd like to make a couple comments. I'm in support of the application. I'd just like to commend Mr. Chan on his package of materials that he provided. I thought it was very well done and in depth, and it convinced me just in reviewing that package that this is, in terms of built form in the area, this is compatible. At 458, there's a multi-unit building that is either equivalent or higher. And as well, in terms of the evolving policy, in terms of how, the city may be leaning in a direction to permit, obviously, for the missing middle type housing, greater units, particularly along streets like Oakwood. So I'm in support of the application. I think that it has been, it'll fit within the neighborhood. It's accessible to transit. It's on a more of a major street. So I think it, in my view, meets the 4 tests. For those reasons. I don't know if there's any other comments, but I'm happy to bring a motion forward.
Please.
So based on that, I'd like to bring a motion forward for approval of the application. I'd like to make it subject to urban forestry condition number 3. And I do think it makes sense, as Mr. Chan had stated, to tie it to an elevation of some sort in terms of the height. So I don't know if we
The
have
south
all of
elevation.
the elevations.
It was the south elevation, he said.
Oh, did he say south? Okay,
Yes.
then I'm happy with that, so that we can, ensure that the height is as per the plans and the overage is for the, I think he said the guard railing. So tie it to the south elevation and urban forestry condition number 3.
Is there a second to that motion? There is, Mr. Byatt. Moved and seconded to approve, subject to forestry, and tying approval to the south elevation. Those in favor, show of hands, please. And that vote is unanimous to carry the motion and so approve the application. Thank you. So at this stage, panel, we got going a little bit late. At this stage, I'd normally be taking a quick recess, but I think what we'll do is, because we did get going a bit late, why don't we hear one more application, number 7, 27 Ridge Drive, and then after that we will break for a short recess. Very good. Okay, so moving on to number 7, 27 Ridge Drive. On this application, panel has before it applicant materials, an arborist report, a tree location plan, presentation materials from the agent from November 30, photographs from the agent December 3rd. There is a report from Urban Forestry. There's correspondence, both in support and in opposition. There are a total of 3 form letters in support from 104, 52, and 28 Ridge, and there is opposition from 31 Ridge, 38 Ridge, and 23 Ridge Drive. So, with that, let's move along to have the applicant join us. An applicant, if you just state your name as you join us, please.
Yes. Hello, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Sude Saleh. I'm the architect talking on behalf of the owners of 27 Ridge Drive. My address is 43 Apple Orchard Ave, Thornhill, Ontario.
Good morning to you. Okay. You'll have 5 minutes to present the thrust of your application to the panel, and we invite you to go ahead now.
Okay. Just a quick correction. We actually have 14 letters of support, not 4 letters of support. They are all bundled up. So 15 letters of support from all from Ridge Drive. Okay. So we have in front of us 5 minor variances, 4 of which are from the new bylaw, and the 5th one is from the old bylaw. We have done research, and when we started designing this house, we made sure that we're not setting new precedents in the area. All the zoning variances that we're asking for today have been approved previously in our neighborhood. In addition to that, we made sure that the proposed design is aesthetically within the standards of the street. Ridge Drive is a beautiful street with many traditional looking houses, pitch roofs. We tried to keep this tradition, introduced a pitch roof house with bricks within the standards of the street. So we have a third story bedroom on top of the house, and we make sure that we design the house to make it more look like a 2-story house from Ridge Drive, as opposed to a 3-story, to avoid making the front facade too large. And we believe that we've been successful designing in a sensitive manner. If you look at the 3D image of the house on the first page, you'll see plainly. We also worked with our planner from the city community planning. Originally, we actually had more variances than asking today. We had a front yard setback, we had a length of dwelling of 18.17 meters, and a height side of 0.63. She advised that we reduce the length of dwelling, so we did. It to 17.6 instead of 18.17, and we also deleted our front yard setback altogether. That resulted in a lower FSI, so instead of 0.63, we have 0.62. We sent back revised drawing and revised notice to committee of adjustment on August 31st. Our planner said they didn't have any more objection or comments. What you have in front of you today are those drawings and those plans. A little background on the owner. So my client, they've been living on 27 Ridge Drive for a year and a half. They're a family of 6. They have 4 kids, so a little bit on the large side. And all the kids go to school within the neighborhood. As you can imagine, the existing house is just not enough space for this family. They are excited to build their new home and stay in the neighborhood that they love. Currently, there's not enough space to truly enjoy their house. The kids actually share bedrooms. There's no storage, no study area. As you can imagine, during COVID, a lot of kids stay home and study. And they also have in-laws and parents in BC, so when they visit, they don't have space. So again, we have 14 letters of support from the neighbors and no objection from planning department after we satisfied their comments. I just want to go through a couple of the important variances, and if there are questions, I will go back to some of them. In terms of length of dwelling, as I mentioned above, we originally had 18.7 meter, and after talking to the planner, we changed this to 17.6. She was happy at the end. We believe that extra 2 feet of length is a minor variance. There are many examples in the area that I've listed on my presentation. I'm quickly going to mention a few of them. Number 3, Highland Gardens, approved for 17.53. Number 3, Douglas Drive, approved for 18.82. Number 40, Rosedale Heights, approved for 20.34. Number 91, Inglewood Drive, also approved for 23.53. There are also more examples, but I just picked a few to make it quick. I also want to say that the rear wall of proposed rear wall of 27 Ridge Drive will just be 1 foot proud of the rear wall of 23 Ridge Drive, who's under construction right now. It's the neighbor on the west side. Their deck actually, it goes way longer than our deck. Approximately, I am just measuring this on my site plan. I don't have their drawings, but approximately, just by looking at their pictures, they're about 16 foot for the depth of their deck, and we're at 10 feet for the depth of our deck. Also, if you look at the map on our presentation, that's the 3rd page of our presentation, you will see that there are many houses with longer length around us. As an example, number 19 Ridge Drive, when I measure on the zoning map City of Toronto, I get roughly around 19 meters for the length of dwelling. I want to talk about FSI. We're asking for FSI of 0.62. There are again many examples within the area. Number 86 Ridge Drive was approved for 0.92. Number 106 Ridge Drive was approved for 0.88. Number 28 Ridge Drive was approved for 0.886. Next, I want to talk about, I'm going to skip variance setback. I'm going to skip variance balcony size. I want to talk about height. If I have time, I will go back to those and if there are questions. In terms of building height, I want to emphasize that the building height variance that we have is an old bylaw variance. We actually do comply to the new bylaw height. Required for the new bylaw height is maximum of 11 meters in height, and it's measured from the established grade to top of roof, which we have, and we do comply to that. In the old bylaw, the way the height is measured is a little bit different. They measure it from the average
Agent,
grade to top.
Agent, I must ask you now for your final comments, please.
Yes. So the average grade in this case, because the site slopes down at the rear so much, so the average grade is so much lower than established grade, and the height, the 11.96 that we're getting is really not a true height of the building. If you look at the building from Ridge Drive, we're really at 11 meters. That's all I'm going to say. If there are questions, I will go back to some of those variants.
Thank you very much. All right, then let's move along to
Chair,
those.
I hate to interrupt. I know there are people looking to speak, but did the application change? I mean, the agent was saying that some variances were amended, and it doesn't look like that's what's in our notice.
Very good. That's a question for you, applicant. Did the application change?
No, the application didn't change. It's only during the pre-circulation period, when we were talking to the planner, they asked us to revise some things, and as I mentioned, on August 31st, everything was sent to Committee of Adjustment, and Jacob posted the drawings, I believe, on November 12th.
It just doesn't match our notice. That's the only reason I'm asking you. The notice I have before me says the length of depth variance or length is 18.17 meters. And as you were talking, I noted that you said it was 17.6 meters. It sounds like you removed. So I don't know if that's the wrong notice or she needs to formally amend those variances. I don't know, Mr. Chair. Maybe staff can advise us.
Let's just do this now. Which variance are you referring to, Ms. Valentini?
Variance number 1, for example. I believe the agent said it's 17.6 meters, and the notice I have in my package says 18.17 meters.
So
she also mentioned the front yard setback and the FSI being changed.
Well, let's go over with her. Agent?
Yes, I'm here.
Can I ask you, we are showing...
Notice was sent. There was a new notice of decision sent on November 28th. I'm not sure why you guys are not looking at that one.
Okay, just for my clarity then, on the notice that you're looking at sent November the 28th, go to variance number 1, which relates to length, and What is the length that is being requested on your variance?
We're requesting 17.6.
Ooh, okay, so we do have an issue here. Because we are showing 18.7, and you're showing 17.6. All right.
But even on the application, right now, if you click on the list of things, you will see the new notice. I'm not sure why members of committee weren't updated with,
Mr. Chair.
with the new.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I can confirm that a revised notice of public hearing was issued with the values that she's talking about. It just seems that the committee members received the wrong public notice to review, as if the agenda wasn't updated. So it might be wise to go through the variances with her to coordinate how they might have changed.
That's what we have to do. So, Agent, just a second. No, just a second, Agent. I'm going to ask you to go through an exercise with me very carefully. And we're going to start with variance number 1 as it shows on the notice that you're looking at. And variance number 1, the request is 17.6 meters. Is that correct?
Correct. That's right. Yes, it's 17.6.
Okay. Variance number 2. The new detached dwelling will have a floor space index equal to what on your notice?
0.62.
0.63. So that hasn't changed.
No, sorry,
Okay.
0.62. We're asking for 0.62.
Okay, no, I just want to get the numbers correct here. Let's just keep the conversations very simple. Number 3, the new detached dwelling will be located 3.8 meters from the front lot line. That's what we're reading. What are you reading?
We completely deleted that one.
Number
That's
3
gone.
is gone.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Number 4, what does your notice read?
Number 4 is, sorry, let's talk about side yard setback. So side yard setback.
Oh, I'm
remains-
sorry. Yeah, no, number 3 is gone, so I shouldn't relate to numbers anymore, okay? Number 4, my number 4, here's what it reads. It's about west side setback. The new detached dwelling will be
Setback,
located
correct.
0.92 meters from the west side lot line. So what
That
does
remains.
that remains 0.92 west side? Okay.
Correct.
All right. So that's whatever number that is now. I guess it's number 3. Do you show that as number 3?
Through you, Mr. Chair,
Yep.
if we can just go through this one more time, and I'll reiterate what I hear and what I see on the screen that staff have before us. For variance number 1, it will read that the building length will equal 17.6 meters. For variance number 2, which is floor space index, it will equal 0.62 times the area of the lot, which equates to 423.81 square meters. Variance number 3 has been removed for the location of the dwelling to the front lot line. Variance number 4 remains as is, variance number 5 remains as is, and variance number 6 remains as is.
Okay. Panel members, are you with us? Okay. Very good, and thanks, Agent, for your help on that. And I think we're all on the same page and all now dealing with the same numerical values. Basically the same items. So, let's move on now to those that are registered to speak. Moderator, who's the first person joining us?
Jean Yves?
Yes,
Could you state your name, please?
my name is Jean-Yves Urbain.
Good.
I'm at 15 Ridge Drive, Charlotte, Ontario.
Thank you very much. All right. If you would like to tell us you have 5 minutes now to address the committee. We'd like to hear your concerns about the application and its impact on you. Go ahead.
There was some change in the drawing so that So some of my parts will be perhaps not relevant anymore, but still. I'll make a statement at the beginning is that with the Committee of Adjustment do not have jurisdiction, but the style of the house is totally different compared to anything else there is on the street. The street is 1920s style, and what they are proposing to build is totally different. So let's go with the variance, who is really your jurisdiction. Building height, yes, 11 meters from the street is very similar to the other house. However, because of the roof angle, the building will look like it is a 3-floor building. Everybody else on the street is a 2-floor. So it's just nice to say it's 11 meters. Yeah, you meet the requirement, but the look is not like any of the other house on the street. The other house has a very slopey roof, the gentle slope roof, excuse me, compared to what is proposed is very angled roof and very flat on the top. So this makes the building look and feel taller than what it is in reality. Floor platform at the back, I don't really care. That will not have any impact on me, but will surely have an impact on the two neighbors on the right of the left of that property. Side yard setback. So what is in the bylaw is 1.2 meters, and that was put in place for fire protection between buildings. Because they're proposing to demolish existing buildings, not to leave any of the foundation, anything like that, and build a brand new facility, there's no good reason not to meet that requirement. To be a 0.9, it's just pushing the envelope, and they should cap the. We should push it back to 1.2. Front yard, I know that thing was a drop. And I don't know what's going to be the new one, because I just find out, like you people, a few minutes ago that the front yard was dropped the setback. What was there? No, what was proposed before 10 minutes ago was the building was going to be forward compared to any of the other building on that street. I hope that with their new design, that the face of the building would be in line with everybody else. Floor space and deck, if they want to build something larger, that do not impact cost. Related to the building length, the example was given is people in the neighborhoods are not on the street. On the street is, if it is a little longer, as long as it's not impacting the other neighbors, that can be acceptable. But I have the feeling it's going to be impacting the neighbor mostly on the west side, and perhaps even a little bit on the east side. In my case, I'm 2 houses away. I don't really care in some fashion, but because they're building a brand new building, we should put them within the envelope. There's no good reason to give them a longer building for the sake of having a longer building. So it is evident that the architect is pushing the envelope to put the larger building, the largest, more square foot as possible in an existing lot where it's not very wide, it's just 35 feet. And that house is style-wise, does not match anything on the street. Related to 23 Ridge Drive, they have been under construction for already 3 years, and it's just not even finished. And so we're bruised, we can put it that way, by construction truck, parking during the day, a delivery truck. This is a dead-end street. I hope they're going to be a lot better to manage the construction, and that something will be built fast.
I must ask for your final comments, please.
I am done.
Well, there you go. You're right on time. Thank you very much. Panel,
Thank you.
Any questions for this speaker panel? Thank you very much. Okay. Mr. Moderator, who will be joining us next?
Yan Ryu.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'm the owner of the 31 Ridge Drive, the property to the east side of the 27.
Please
I will
state your
actually
name.
Yes, Yan Ryu.
Good morning. Okay.
Good morning. I will actually let my husband Mark de Groot speak first, and I will add to his comments if it's needed. Thank you very much.
Okay then, good morning. If you'd state your name too, Mr. de Groot.
I think he will need to open his mic. He joined separately.
Okay.
Mark de Groot is also registered.
Yes, he is.
Okay, great. Can everybody hear me?
We do hear you clearly. You have 5 minutes to address the panel. Go ahead.
Excellent. Thanks very much for the opportunity to do so, panel members, and good morning. Yes, actually, it's now just become good afternoon. So our letter of objection outlines our concerns. To begin with, I wish, though, to echo the concerns identified by ravine and natural features as regards the length of the house. In connection with this, the proposed length of the new dwelling will very materially reduce our visibility to the west. I'll touch upon that later. As a very brief introduction, it's worth recapping that a material portion, approximately half, of the lots on the south side of Ridge Drive are on a second lower level and are essentially part of a ravine. Connected with this, the south-facing lots are roughly twice the size of the lots on the north side of Ridge Drive, i.e. approximately 50 feet times 180 feet, while the lots on the north are approximately 50 feet times 90 feet. If just the upper portions of the lots on South Ridge Drive were taken into consideration, i.e. One measured from the street to the top of the bank, the allowed gross floor areas would be very much smaller. In light of the situation, to be actually asking for variances given the very large plot sizes on the south side of Ridge Drive means one is building a very substantial house. This brings us to the main point, which is that the proposed house and its scale do not, as the previous speaker mentioned, fit within the prevailing character of the neighborhood. In more detail, the height that is being proposed is 11.96 meters, substantially higher than any neighboring houses. As regards the length of 17.6 meters, this means that the entire view to the west, which we used to have from our terrace at the back, will now be blocked by an 11.96 meter high wall. In more detail, this new wall will essentially block the full length of, will be essentially the full length of our terrace, after which is a steep slope going down to the lower level of the lot mentioned. Another issue highlighted in our letter is the size of the second floor terrace, which is proposed to be 12.3 meters squared, more than three times the permitted 4 meters squared. It is also proposed to build a fence going from the front of the new house to the back of the new house, which fence is less than 2 feet away from our west wall, and even less from our end bridge meter, which is on this west wall. This proposed new fence on the east side lot line does not meet the minimum clearance requirements from the end bridge meter, which are specified by Enbridge, and so creates access and safety issues. This fence also hinders our ability to maintain our property on the west side, and it's also worth noting that none of the neighboring properties have fences. They may have gates right at the back, but certainly no fences. In closing, we at 31 Ridge Drive, along with our neighbors at 23 Ridge Drive, who I think you will hear from, and who are the immediate neighbors on the west side, have proposed a facilitated mediation in order to see if differences can be resolved in this manner. This has not been accepted by the owners of 27 Ridge Drive, and hence no mediation has thus far occurred. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your submission. Panel members, any questions of the speaker? Thank you. Okay. Moderator, who joins us next?
Patrick Regala.
Good morning, Mr. Regalo. State your name, please.
Patrick, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead and state your name.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, panel members, Mr. Chair. My name is Patrick Rogala. I'm the owner of 23 Ridge Drive, which is the property on the west side of the proposed development. And in the interest of time, I would like to refer to our submission letter, We're not opposed to the development of 23 Ridge Drive, as our guiding principle for our request for deferral is that we strongly believe in a supportive and amicable neighborhood. But frankly, the current application was so confusing to the point that we did not even know which variances we are asked to support, given that multiple versions and uploads in part contradicted each other. I believe that we will be able to find a solution to the contested variances, namely the height, the setback, and the oversight. And in fact, as the previous speaker mentioned, we have made the proposal of a facilitated mediation prior to this hearing, which unfortunately did not take place, and we are even prepared to take part in sharing the cost. And with that, I think I made my point, and I thank you for listening.
Okay, Mr. Regala, I have a question for you. So at this point, you're the third speaker we have spoken to, and the first speaker did not make mention of this of a request for deferral. The second speaker made mention of an offers made by neighbors to look for a conciliated type of approach. Yours is the first actual verbal submission about a deferral that we've heard. So so you would like to have a deferral?
I would like to have a deferral based on the fact that I believe those discrepancies, which are not insubstantial, can be solved amicably by means of a facilitated mediation.
Okay.
That is correct.
All right. So the actual variances requested have been reduced, one eliminated, and those are the actual items that are before the committee today. So okay. So anyway, I'm not sure that we can look at a deferral in this case now because we do have a revised, less onerous application, and so any questions for this speaker panel? I'm going to ask the Deputy Secretary about that. There's talk here of a deferral, but it's really new to me and hasn't been voiced by other speakers.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's something that you would have to suggest to the applicant if they would consider requesting a deferral to speak with the residents.
Okay, fine, thank you. Let's go on to the next speaker, registered.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we had one more speaker of 38 Ridge Drive. They were not in the hearing and they did not respond to calls to join the hearing. So we can go back to the agent now.
Okay, very good. So we'll go back to the agent. And we've heard from 3 speakers. Agent, are you with us again?
Hello, yes, I am, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Okay.
So you've heard from you've heard from the speakers, and I'm going to ask you to speak to their concerns. One speaker made a suggestion about a deferral in order to allow discussion between neighbors and you, the applicant, and the owner. So you might want to comment on your interest in doing that or not doing that. Go ahead.
We're actually not interested in doing that because the owner is going to lose so much time and it's extra cost, as you can imagine. But regarding a few of the comments, so number 19, number 50, number 31, and more houses to the west, they are all 3-story houses. I just wanted to say that. And this neighborhood doesn't have problems with 3-story. They all have a room, a 3rd floor room above in the attic spaces. So these are 3-story houses. It's not just us. In terms of the setback, actually our existing setback on the west side is 0.9, and some parts of the house bumps out. So it bumps out and becomes 12 inches, 30 centimeters. So we're actually making the setback better on the west side. And I also want to raise something about the fence that was brought up by number 31. So that fence is really just, it becomes really a safety fence in case we have a retaining wall or something due to grading plan. So it's not really a fence that we want to put to really divide the two houses or separate. That's correct. There's no fence right now, but in case there is a grading change, then we would have to put a fence for safety reasons. We did actually email the owners of 23 and 31 did give us a person, I don't remember their name, but they gave us an email address that we emailed them. We brought up the variances with them. We explained one by one why we're doing this and what are the variances like. I actually emailed, I have that email, I just never heard back after. Also, the owners of 27
Pardon me,
Ridge Drive-
pardon me. Just, I'm going to stop you there for a moment. Could you tell us which of the speakers that spoke today were recipients of that email?
I believe 31 was saying that we didn't, they both said that we didn't mediate, but we really did. We did really talk to them. As you can see, we have 14 letters.
Was it
of support.
31? No, just confirm whether it's
31.
31.
Correct, 31. So we did, then the owners, I know the owners of 27 did reach out to speak to everybody. It's not like we didn't want to hear anyone out. We did, and again, we did reduce the length of dwelling from 18.17 to 17.6.
Question.
We did reduce.
Excuse me. No, I know what you've done on that. Question for you. I want to get these things clear in my mind. So you say the owner did reach out. By what method? Not tapping on the door, or how? How did they reach out?
I believe so. I'm not sure exactly how they reached out, but they got 14 letters of support from other neighbors. So I'm sure they, again, they've been in this neighborhood for a year and a half. I don't know how they reached out, but I know that they reached out the neighbors, and there was an email address of a person that they said you can talk to him. Okay. And I emailed that to explain the variances, just never heard back.
Carry on. Okay, carry on with your rebuttal.
Is there anything else in terms of the questions? So again, the height variance came up. It's an old bylaw height. I want to emphasize that. It's not a new bylaw height. New bylaw, we do comply. It's the old bylaw. It's measured from average grade. Because the site slopes so low at the back, the average grade is so much lower than the established grade. And it's interesting to mention that actually our neighbor, number 31 Ridge Drive, went to Committee of Adjustment, and just gonna look at my notes. I'm sorry. Sorry, just give me 1 second. They did go to Committee of Adjustment on November 2019 because their roof is considered a flat roof. It's required by bylaw 7.2. They got approved for 9.89. So that is 2.69 meter difference of relief in terms of their height. So again, that was a new bylaw. We're asking, this is an old bylaw. Looking at Ridge Drive, you will not see 11.96. You will really see that 11 meter because the site slopes down. The established, the average grade is just so much lower.
I'll ask you now to make your final comments of rebuttal, please.
In terms of the comments from RNFB, we have read their comments. They're basically all they're asking for is that if this application goes through for building permit, we have to get approval for removing of the tree. We're only removing one tree. We're protecting every other tree on the site, and that one tree is actually a private owned tree. It's on the site of 27 Ridge Drive, and the arborist report says that's a sick tree. I just wanted to mention that as well.
Okay, your time is up. Thank you very much. Okay. Panel members, do you have any questions for this speaker, Ms. Valentini? Please go ahead.
It's relating to, I think she just touched upon it, a memo from Ravine and Natural Feature Protection, Urban Forestry recommends denial of variance number 1 in terms of the request for the building length. And they're very clear that the official plan obviously specifies protection, preservation, and enhancement of marine and natural heritage systems, and that this property is located along the traditional Lake Iroquois shoreline. So they seem, as far as I know, the memo seems very clear that they're requesting denial of variance number 1. So I'm not sure what the agent is referring to when she says that they're okay with it. So maybe you can, because that might concern, amongst other things, but my major concern is the depth variance, and we've got staff recommending refusal.
So yes, they are commenting on the depth variance, and one thing is that the owner has actually given me the permission to negotiate that here. If possible, we can cut back a foot, maybe 30 centimeters from this. But again, if you look at the map that I've provided in my presentation, there are many houses that along Ridge Drive on that part facing the ravine.
We're dealing with a new application, so I don't know what the pre-existing, when they were built, or what the policies were in place now, but from my perspective, I have concern with this particular request and the fact that it doesn't meet the official plan policies for the variance for the depth. So what was it? Are you able to comply with that, or what's the situation? You said there's negotiation of something by your client?
The owners have given me the permission to cut down another maybe 30 centimeters, another foot, if that satisfies the committee. I want to hear your opinions.
Okay, wait a second. Just a moment, please. Okay, we're not here to negotiate with you, but let's just clarify what we are actually talking about. This relates to minor variance number 1, am I correct? Which has been it's been revised to read 17.6 meters. Okay.
That's right.
All right, and there's a discussion here. What I'm picking up is that, well, I mean, this is up to the committee, but panel members, we could reduce that to 17.3, or we could elect to refuse it completely. But that's up to the panel. But so we'll just have that in the mind of the panel as they make have their discussions on about this. With respect to minor variance number 1. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, but what I want to check with staff as we move into committee on this and move toward a motion is, staff, do we have within the city the revised drawings that reflect, for example, the dropping of the front yard setback? Do we have a full set of revised drawings that reflect the revised variances that we became aware of today?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we're just going to double check that.
I beg your pardon?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we're just going to double check that.
Okay. We're going to do that now, yeah? Yeah. Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have a set of revised plans that were submitted on November the 12th.
November the 12th.
At the same day that the revised zoning notice was issued to us.
Okay. So I haven't seen those plans, but they would show the dropping of the front yard setback. Or I should say, they need to show that. And
Yes, so the minimum required front yard setback is 4.21 meters.
and there it is, right? So they do reflect it. Okay.
Yes.
So that's just for the knowledge of panel members, is the drawings that we have that relate to this application and the revised variances that you were made aware of earlier do mesh. They were all submitted at the same time. So they, the documentation is intact. And so at this point, I wonder if anyone in the panel, we'll go into committee now on the application, and I'll invite anyone who wishes to make a comment about it. Mr. Reed, go ahead, please.
Thanks. Generally, I support the application. I don't have issues with the general height and massing, but as we brought up, I think my main concern is the depth. And I know it's only a matter of 0.6 of a meter, but the fact that this is an official plan policy holds a lot of weight to me. And I think that if the argument is 0.6 meters, that's minor, and I think then that is something that the applicant can remove from the house and have that be minor to them. So from my perspective, I would support Urban Forestry and Natural Features recommendation to refuse variance 1, but accept the remainder of the application.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah, that actually makes sense to me. I don't know if anybody else has a comment, but to me, that makes sense. Does anybody else wish to speak? If not, we can ask Mr. Reed to go forward with a motion.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, if the variance number 1 is refused, could we maybe go back to the applicant to determine what the floor space index would be with only a depth of 17 meters instead of 17.6 meters?
Sounds like a good idea. Applicant, are you with us?
Hi. Yes, I am.
So
Yes, I am.
we have a question
Yes.
for you. It involves a calculation.
That's right.
And here's the calculation. If variance number 1 was refused, what would the resulting reduction, what would the resulting FSI
It's
FSI
going to be
figure
smaller
amount to?
than, it's going to be smaller than 0.62. I would have to do a bit of a calculation.
Are you able to do that
What do you-
now?
0.62. Do you want me to do that now?
If yes, I think it would be valuable, but we'll give you we'll give you some time just to work
Sure.
away on your own there without
Sure.
without bothering you, and if you could work on that number,
Thank
please,
you.
that'd be valuable. So we'll just pause here for a moment.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. I will be exactly right on 0.6 for my FSI.
0.6.
Yes.
0.6 makes your FSI equal to the permitted floor space index, so it in fact permits that variance to be dropped, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair, can we just confirm that it's 0.6 times the area of the lot, which equates to 410.33 square meters from the
That's right.
applicant? Okay.
Very good. Okay. So thank you, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, for that suggestion. That's all right, panel. So
Thanks for that, Chair.
okay. So Mr. Reed, go ahead.
Yes, I'll move denial of variance number 1, and then the approval of the remainder of the variances as amended. So not including variance 2 and not including variance 3. And I would like to make a conditional on the condition that's in the urban forestry report relating to the private tree and any ravine works.
Thank you.
That is my motion.
Thank you for that. That motion is seconded by Mr. Byatt. It is moved and seconded to approve the application as just detailed by Mr. Reed in his motion. All those in favor, show of hands, please. That motion is carried. So the application is approved as amended and revised, and the panel moves along to a quick recess. We'll take 10 minutes, and so it's now 12:30. We'll see you back, panel members, at 20 minutes to 1, please. Thank you. Everybody set? And the Committee of Adjustment now resumes. And we'll be resuming on agenda item number 8, 78 Miller Street. On this application, the committee has before it the applicant submitted materials and a previous decision by the committee in 2016, which affected the subject property. We'll ask the agent or applicant to join us, please, by stating your name.
Good afternoon, a very good afternoon. This is Victor Rosa, representing the owner of this particular property.
Good afternoon to you. Very good. Okay, panel members, there are no registered speakers here, so does anyone want a presentation, or are there any questions you'd like to put to the agent? Mr. Reed, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I just want to confirm that this is an expansion of the existing use. That I know it's an auto-related thing, and are these offices in conjunction with that?
Through you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, they are. This is all accessory to the first floor existing use, termed as the motor vehicle repair shop.
Thanks. All right. Further questions, panel? No? Then if anyone is ready to move forward with a motion, Mr. Reed, go ahead.
Thanks very much. I think this is actually a very positive application. It's making more efficient use of an industrial space, and so I move to approve the application with no conditions.
Thank you very much. That is seconded by Mr. Byatt. So it is moved and seconded to approve the application. Those in favor, show of hands, please. And the motion is carried. The application is so approved. On number 9, 42 Newman Avenue, the materials before the committee are those submitted by the applicant. There are 4 photographs of existing trees from August the 23rd, and there is a staff report from Urban Forestry. So we'll ask the agent here to join us, please, by stating your name.
Christopher Zianis.
Good afternoon, Chris.
Good afternoon.
Okay. Panel members, any questions for the agent? Hearing none. Hearing none, we can move forward to a motion, please, if someone is ready. Mr. Bike, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As far as I can see, this is a fairly straightforward application and request. Other than the, I believe it's forestry, I've forgotten which one it is now. Bear with me, sorry. It's forestry staff report.
I have condition 1, Zahir.
Is it condition 1? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Sure, no worries.
That's the only condition, Mr. Chair, that would attach to my making a motion to approve.
Very good. So motion to approve according, subject to forestry condition 1, second to that. It is seconded, Ms. Valentini. All in favor? And carried unanimously. Subject to forestry number 1, we move on to item number 10. 134 Gilmour Avenue. On this application, we have before us applicant materials, correspondence sent to the neighbors by the applicants in November, 2 photographs received in November. We have an arborist report from August. There is opposition correspondence here. It consists of a letter from 138 Gilmour Ave, from 128, and from 132 Gilmour Avenue. And plus there are 7 photographs which were sent to support an opposition stance from 132 Gilmour Avenue, received on December the 7th. We'll ask the applicant to join us, please. Just state your name.
Jan, you've been unmuted. Jan Timstra, agent of 134 Gilmour Avenue, you've been unmuted. Jan, I'm going to remove you from the hearing and give your cell phone a call. Just bear with me.
Hear me?
Hello, Jan, we can hear you.
Okay, hi. So I had to use my cell phone. I couldn't get online on my laptop for some reason.
No worries, happy to have you.
Okay.
Hello, Jan. Okay,
so
Jan.
Yes.
You'll have 5 minutes to, well, I'll just let me check with the moderator. So moderator, true that we have one person standing by? Okay. Jan, you have 5 minutes to present your application to the panel.
Thank you. The proposal is to construct a second floor addition over the existing rear first floor and a third floor addition over the existing part of the house and part of the second floor addition. The variances going through them is floor space index of allowable 0.6. We're asking for 0.92. Now there are other, I checked online for the other community adjustment approvals for other properties in the neighborhood. 244 Gilmour was approved for 1 times coverage. In the neighborhood on 67 Fairview, 0.9%. 48 Fairview was 1.2%. Mayor, just around the corner, was 1.19%. So there are a few other houses in the neighborhood that have been approved for a higher lot coverage. The second variance was for height, which really is measured to the peak of the dormer. In the front elevation, we wanted to keep the character of the neighborhood. That's why we had a sloped front roof and then had a dormer on it to try and match a lot of the houses on the street. Items 3 and 4 having to do with north and south sidewalls. The reason for the height is to get a third floor addition, which is a standard 8-foot ceiling and a flat roof. Item 5, which is the soft landscaping space. Looking at the existing survey, you'll see that we have an existing walkout, a deck, stone walkway, a paved interlocking brick parking space, and a storage shed. So the existing soft landscaping that's there now is 26.7%. And we have the existing, we're putting back, we have a new a deck that's the same width, we have stairs, a walkway, so we're ending up really with 22% soft landscaping once we've taken away all of the other hard surfaces. So we're only doing a reduction of about 4.7%. I send letters out to the neighbors back on November 13th, saying that if they have any questions or concerns, please contact us. Nobody has contacted us at all. Even those who opposed the letters sent in, they haven't contacted us. We actually found out through the looking online to see if there were any opposition. We contacted the owner at 132 to meet with her. And we finally got a hold and met with her yesterday afternoon at 4:30. And the neighbor at 138 also joined us. So we had a discussion as to what constitutes a soft landscape. And I said only sod, grass, and garden is considered landscape. And also looking at the south wall, which Ms. Paquette would be looking at. So we've gone through discussions on the various variances on it, and we offered to step back the second and third floor from 5'8" to 7 feet, and step the third floor back another 2 feet. And we would accept that even with the committee's approval. That would give us a floor space index actually a little lower of 8.89 for lot coverage, to reduce our gross floor. They haven't come back to say we accept this or not accept this, and we just left, after I said, if you have any other questions, please give us a call. The neighbor to the north, which was Kim Percival, the owners had spoke with them, and they had no objection to the proposed as submitted to the committee. And I think that's it.
Thank you very much. I'll just start with a quick question for you. So, if I understood you correctly, you did succeed yesterday in discussing the application with the person at 132?
132 and 138.
Okay.
Heather Buck and Sandra Paquette.
Okay, and in that meeting, you made this offer of a reduction of the FSI to 0.89 from 0.92, but you haven't.
Generally set back the third floor another 2 feet, and the second floor having a 7-foot setback from the existing back wall of the house.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant panel at this stage? Let's go on then to the registered speaker.
Hello.
Hello there.
I'm Sandra. Hi, Sandra Paquette.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good morning.
Good afternoon, I guess. Yeah, it is. Go ahead, Sandra. You have 5 minutes to address the panel and express your concern.
So first of all, just so you're aware, I have in my house the owners of 136 and 138 Gilmour Avenue.
Okay.
They've made themselves available to answer any questions that you might have as well. And I think the owners of 136 might have a comment about them giving verbal approval. So I'm going to read because I want to make sure that I don't forget anything major. So I'm just going to kind of tell you the story in the words that I have. So first of all, thank you. I wouldn't be here taking up my time unless I had reservations regarding the 134 Gilmour Avenue renovations. I'm a single mom. I run my own business. So this time and taking this time is a big deal to me, and I wouldn't be here if I wasn't fully committed to it. In the 20 years I've lived at 132 Gilmour, I've never challenged anything on my street. I'd like to think I'm not that kind of a neighbor. Some of what I have to say reflects the views of my neighbors, as I've mentioned, 136 and 138, and we've kind of collaborated on this letter that I'm reading to you right now. They are aware that I'm sharing their thoughts, which also came to you in the form of letters of concern. While we have several concerns regarding the renovations, our major issues involve variances 1A relating to the floor space index and 3 and 4 related to the height allowed for a side wall of a house, which will impact our backyard living spaces greatly. Before addressing those concerns, I'd like to bring your attention to the process. Plans were submitted in July to the committee, and yet we only received a hand-delivered letter from the owners dated November 10th, 2021. This letter arrived after the letter from the city dated November 12th. My understanding is best practices for such a major renovation is to meet with neighbors well in advance of submitting their plans to the committee. This would give neighbors, us, an opportunity to provide input and buy into the plan, a collaborative process. Instead, we received a letter with only a few weeks to respond. Given our busy lives and our lack of understanding of the process, you can imagine that that is not a lot of time to interpret the plans, ask questions, and get organized. The summary description provided to us by the owners didn't reflect the true extent of the renovation. I spoke to an architect to help me decipher the variances, and only then did we understand that the plan clearly showed that the extent of the remodeling and the height of the third floor addition was much bigger than we thought. All the more reason to sit down and discuss plans before submitting them to committee. I sent an email to the owners on Friday, December 3rd, indicating that I had submitted my letter to the committee. This was a goodwill gesture. In this email, I told Mark and Melanie I had submitted a letter and would be happy to chat with them about it. I only met with Mark and Jan at 4:30 last night. While the architect on the project did offer to make amendments to the plan, these were just numbers given and not a visual. A meeting the night before is not enough to reach consensus or process. In the meeting, the architect spoke in detail about the needs of the client's family, but did not really mention or address the impact on mine. What is being proposed is a 30-foot wall of house that takes almost 50% of our yards on the property line. Our already small urban backyard will now abut a 30-foot structure that spans almost 20 feet in length. My understanding is that the height limit of a residential property on the property line is 25 feet, making this addition against residential bylaws, 1 story higher than is allowed directly on the property line. If the plans go ahead as they are, or with the small concession offered, we will live beside a 30-foot tower, blocking our view of trees, sun, making our backyards feel dark and cavernous. It will change the acoustics and create echoing and louder backyards. The plan to add a 3rd story on top of the existing rear addition will most certainly exceed the bearing capacity of the existing footings. To the best of our knowledge, this previous renovation was done without permit and was not managed properly to be built to, nor inspected to be compliant with the building codes in that era, let alone modern code. Upgrading this footing will undoubtedly result in the need to excavate well beyond what is proposed in the existing plan, which will impact the tree on the property of 136 Gilmour. This sugar maple is the only tree considered
Sandra?
in the arbor. Yes?
I'm going to have to ask you to make your final comments, please. You've reached your time limit, so what are your final comments?
Well, my final comments are that, first of all, 130, we want our proposal, all 3 families here that are sitting here today, we're okay with the renovation, but we do not want a 3rd floor on the existing extension. That's our ask.
Thank you very much. Okay. Let's go back then to the applicant. Applicant, you've heard from the person, from Sandra speaking. I think she's 132. And ask for, I
Yes,
would
you
ask
want
for
to-
your comments on what she had to say, tell us, please.
Okay, regarding to excavation, is the building, the only excavation we'll be doing is replacing the existing basement walkout because it's in poor shape. Regarding the addition done without a building permit, I don't know what the history of that addition is. I have the original drawings of the building. It looks like there was a permit for it. The excavation we would be doing is underpinning the basement from the inside, not from the outside. The basement right now is a 6'4" ceiling height, and so we were trying to make it maybe an 8-foot ceiling. But the excavation is on the outside. Inside. The garage itself will be a slab on grade, so we're not doing foundation work for that. There is an arborist report that gives us guidelines for protection of the tree, for the excavation, and to have an arborist on site during that excavation when we do the garage. For the third floor, the second floor will have 2 bedrooms on it, and the third floor will have 1 bedroom on it. It's a family with 2 young kids, 2 and 4 years old, and they're a growing family. They just need some more space. And the way we would get it is the third floor. There are other third floors in the neighborhood, but a lot of them, with regards to the floor space index, is that a lot of them are 2.5-story houses which have used the attic space because they have either a front or side gable end with a peak roof of around 32 feet from.
Just hang on for a moment. Just hang on for a moment. Would you put up the front elevation, please? We're just going to put up the front elevation so we can all visualize what you're referring to. Go ahead.
Hello?
There you are. Go ahead now, please. We can see the front elevation here, yeah.
Okay, so on the front elevation, the height is actually measured at the peak of the dormer. The sloped roof, the flat roof height is 9.76 meters to the top of the roof for a flat roof. And that just allows us to have an 8-foot ceiling for the third floor and about a foot for the roof structure itself. Rather than bringing the addition all the way to the front of the house and go up 3 stories, we wanted to slope the roof back with the dormer just to keep the character of the neighborhood. And I don't think there was any opposition from the neighbors with that. It was just more of a concern for the neighbor on the south side regards to the second and third floor addition. And Klein was just looking for that, looking for that space. So that's the only way I could, reply to it is we're on the north side, so we're not blocking any of her sunlight. She's got a huge tree in her backyard, and the neighbor to the north has got a huge tree in their backyard, which basically provides during the summertime pretty much everything is going to be in shade. And during the wintertime, yes, you will get some sunlight, but then of course the sun is fairly low during that wintertime. So we're not casting, on the south side, we're not casting any shadows, but we would be casting some shadow for the late morning on the north side, but certainly not across all the way to 138 Gilmour.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Let's see if the panel members have any questions for you. Panel, your opportunity to put questions to the applicant. I'll have a question just to begin. So, in the immediate neighborhood or in the immediate area of the subject site, are there other three-story properties?
I sent 2 photographs to the committee that shows 3-story buildings, 3-story houses. One is on Gilmour and one's on Fairview.
Just hang on a moment, then we'll put those up.
Construction.
Okay, well,
and approved from the committee.
Just a second while we get those. Okay. So how far away is that property?
Well, one's just north on Gilmour, and Fairview is a block east.
And 3 stories are permitted in this neighborhood, is that correct?
They went to the Committee of Adjustment to get approval for they're all in an R zone, same zoning. The floor space index allowable is 0.6. And so they had approval from anywhere from 1.0 to 1.2 for the floor space index.
Other questions for the applicant panel members? Mr. Reed, go ahead, followed by Mr. Byatt.
Thanks. I know you're not seeking any depth or length variances, but it is a very long house that's being proposed. Can you tell me how much further back it goes from the neighboring properties?
Hang on. So from the neighbor to the south, the addition goes back approximately 21 feet past her main wall of the house. There's a there's a one-story rear addition on the neighbor to the south, and from that point, we are the existing addition would be approximately 17 feet past that one-story addition. That would be the addition that was built a number of years ago.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks.
Mr. Byatt.
Applicant, you mentioned earlier that you had conversations with a couple of the neighbors and proposed making some changes. Are those changes that you offered or proposed, do they have any bearing on any of the variances that you're asking for? Do they change?
Well, what it would do is just reduce the floor space index. So instead of 0.92, it would be actually 0.89. And the idea is just to shorten, set the second floor back to 7 feet, so it would be only a 13-foot addition from the existing wall of the house, and we would set back another 2 feet for the third floor.
So
Again,
that's
we're trying to step the addition back a little further.
Thank you.
And I guess, applicant, on that issue, this is your choice, but the committee will take it into consideration as they consider. So, variance number 1 currently reads FSI equal to 0.92 is being requested. Do you wish to formally revise that downward to 0.89?
Yes, we will.
Okay, thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, what does that equate in square meters?
And yes, we will need. We'll need.
Sorry, the square meters would be 191.5.
191.5.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Any further questions, panel, of the applicant? In that case, let's take the application into committee, and we can move to a motion, or if anyone wants to make a comment, fine. Otherwise, we can go to a motion. And I would bring your attention to the fact that variance number 1 is altered to 0.89. Go ahead, Mr. Reed.
Thanks. I'll start with a comment because I found this a slightly challenging application. And as I mentioned before, because of the depth of it, but that obviously doesn't show up in variances for length or depth, but it does translate into FSI. And I wasn't comfortable with that, but with the modifications proposed, I think a reduction of 7 feet on the second floor, I think that would make a material difference, and I would support that revised application. So I'm looking at my colleagues to see if they have any comments, and if not, I'd go ahead with that motion. No. Okay, I'd like to move a motion for approval of the amended application wherein variance 1 is reduced to 0.89 times for FSI and the subsequent meter square with no conditions.
Mr. Reed, just friendly amendment here. Could we add as a condition wording to the effect that you know, the second floor, you know, what was proposed by the applicant regarding the second floor? Can we capture that in language?
I would defer to staff for that. I would hope so, but I'm
Okay.
just not sure if that's okay.
Staff, can we capture that in language? The applicant said he could reduce FSI to 0.89 by reducing, well, maybe we should go back to the applicant to get him to repeat, but I'd like to try to capture the language in the motion.
Sure, maybe we should go back to the applicant.
Let's go back to the applicant. Okay, applicant?
Yes.
All right, would you very slowly give us what the 0.89 means in terms of second floor length?
Okay, the second floor addition will be 3.96 meters, which is 13 feet, which gives us a 7-foot setback from the rear wall of the existing first floor.
So we're going to revise it to the second floor length. Oh no, the second floor. No, pardon me. Do you mind one more time?
Sure. Second floor addition
Addition.
will have a length of 3.96 meters.
Good. Which gives a 7-foot setback.
Yes, from the rear wall. of
From
the
rear
existing
wall.
building.
Very good, thank you. Second floor addition, length of 3.96 meters, which gives a 7-foot setback from the rear wall. Okay. Mr. Reed, would you consider that language to be part of your motion?
I would, but I think there is a third floor implication as well.
Let's
If
go to the applicant.
could clarify that.
Okay. Applicant, what's the implication on the third
Yeah.
floor?
The third floor, length of the third floor dimension, noted as 9.8 meters, will be changed to 9.19 meters, a reduction of 0.6. Sorry, that reduction of 0.6, a reduction of 0.69 meters.
Okay. The new figure is 9.9, and the original figure was, please repeat one more time.
No, sorry, the original, the dimension of 9.8 meters will be revised to 9.19 meters.
That's simple language, okay. Okay. I think we have captured that. We have captured that. Let's go back to Mr. Reed.
Yep. So I'd like to add that language that I trust staff will.
They have captured it. They have it.
Sure, thank you, staff. And with no other conditions.
Thank you. Do we have a second to that motion? There is, Mr. Byatt. Moved and seconded to approve the revised application. Those in favor, show of hands, please. And the motion is carried. The application is so approved. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, can we just switch over the YouTube stream? It'll just be 1 minute.
Okay, so we're going to do a stream change over here. Will be about 1 minute paused.
For anyone watching on YouTube, we'll just switch over to the PM session.